You've been told sleep is just closing your eyes, switching off, and hoping for rest. But if that were true, why do so many people wake up more tired than when they went to bed? Why do you still toss and turn at night, caught in the storm of your own thoughts, unable to silence the noise in your head? The truth is, real sleep isn't just about your body, it's about your mind. For thousands of years, Buddhist monks have practiced the art of letting go of stress, of worry, of yesterday and tomorrow. They discovered that sleep can be more than rest. It can be a sacred practice, a nightly glimpse of peace, a mini nirvana where the weight of the world dissolves and you return to pure stillness. Imagine that, every night becoming a doorway into freedom, every dream a teacher, every moment of silence a path to happiness. Tonight, as you listen, you will begin to feel it. Your breath will slow, your racing thoughts will soften, and a calm you may have forgotten will rise gently from within. And when you wake, you'll see that happiness doesn't come from chasing or controlling life. It comes from surrender, from awareness, from the quiet strength already inside you. This isn't just another guide to help you fall asleep. This is 3 hours of timeless Buddhist lessons, an inner journey to peace, clarity, and joy. A chance to rest deeply and to live lighter. Are you ready to close your eyes and step into that freedom? Let's begin. When the lights go out and silence fills the room, most people think sleep is nothing more than the body shutting down for a few hours. But what if that silence held something much deeper? What if sleep was not just rest, but a doorway, a hidden passage into peace that most of us pass through without ever noticing? For centuries, Buddhist masters described deep sleep as a taste of freedom itself, a nightly reminder that the self you cling to is not as solid as you believe. Tonight, we step into that mystery. In the Buddhist tradition, self-awareness is not a luxury, it is the ground beneath every step. Without awareness, life becomes a blur of habits, worries, and restless chasing. With it, even ordinary moments glow with meaning. When monks looked at sleep, they did not see wasted hours or emptiness. They saw a natural glimpse of what happens when the ego dissolves. In waking life, the I feels constant. I think, I plan, I want, I fear. Yet in deep sleep, that whole identity disappears, and still life continues. Breathing continues. The heart continues. Consciousness, in a quiet form, remains. To the monks, this was proof that the ego is not the core of who you are. Think of how radical that realization island. You spend your days defending your image, building your identity, fearing loss, craving approval, chasing goals. But in the deepest layers of sleep, none of that exists. The clinging stops, the battles stop. There is no me and no mine, only stillness, only being. This is why ancient teachers called deep sleep a mini nirvana, a state where the fire of desire, aversion, and delusion goes out for a while. You may not remember it when you wake, but your body and mind know. That refreshment you feel after a good night's sleep is not just physical recovery, it is the echo of having touched, for a brief time, a place beyond self. This is not a theory, it is something you experience every single night, whether you notice it or not. What makes the Buddhist view so transformative is the invitation to bring awareness to what is usually unconscious. Instead of treating sleep as dead time, you begin to see it as a practice, a teacher, a reminder. Self-awareness here means pausing before bed to reflect, who is it that will dissolve tonight? The face in the mirror, the story in your mind, the endless worries, they all drop away. And yet, you remain. That insight softens fear. It makes you less desperate to hold on so tightly. One reason many people struggle with sleep is that they cannot let go. They lie in bed, still clutching the day, still carrying unsaid words, unfinished tasks, unresolved emotions. But the body cannot rest while the mind is gripping so hard. The Buddhist approach says, rest begins with release. To release, you must be aware of what you are holding. Self-awareness is the torch that shows you where the tension hides. You notice the jaw clenched, the shoulders heavy, the thoughts circling like vultures, and by seeing them, you begin to soften. Awareness is gentle. It does not demand, it does not scold. It simply sees. That simple act of seeing without judgment is itself the doorway to rest. When you notice a thought instead of becoming trapped in it, it loses its weight. When you notice your breath instead of fighting with it, it steadies naturally. This is how monks could sit quietly for hours, resting deeper than sleep itself, simply by watching the mind without clinging. For you, the practice begins in bed, in the quiet moments before you drift off. Instead of trying to control the mind, you observe. Instead of forcing rest, you allow. Science now confirms what Buddhists discovered long ago. Awareness changes the brain. Neuroscientists speak of the default mode network, the region tied to self-referential thinking. It is most active when you are worrying, replaying the past, or fantasizing about the future. In meditation and in deep, dreamless sleep, that network quiets down. The sense of I, me, mine fades. This is why rest feels so freeing. Your brain is literally stepping out of its own prison. But monks did not stop at describing this as biology. To them, the nightly vanishing of the self was a teacher of wisdom. If you disappear every night and return every morning, how real is this I you cling to? If it can vanish so easily, maybe it was never as solid as you thought. That realization does not make life meaningless. It makes it lighter. You stop carrying the ego like a heavy stone. You start moving through life with a softer grip, more willing to forgive, more willing to let things flow. This reframing of sleep changes how you approach the night. No longer is it a battle against insomnia, no longer a chore you endure. It becomes a sacred ritual, a return to truth. Each night is a little death, a gentle rehearsal for the final letting go that awaits all beings. Instead of fearing it, you welcome it, you trust it, and in that trust, peace arises. There is also a practical power here. Many people lie awake at night because their identity is still active. They replay arguments, anticipate tomorrow, measure themselves against others. All of this is the ego refusing to dissolve. But if you see sleep as mini nirvana, you remind yourself the ego does not have to stay awake. It can rest. It can fall away. You do not have to solve your life before bed. You do not have to control tomorrow. You simply step aside and let the great tide of sleep carry you. That is not weakness, it is wisdom. The Buddha once compared the self to a flame. It flickers, it changes, it depends on fuel. When the fuel runs out, the flame goes out. Sleep shows you this every night. The fuel of thought, identity, striving burns low, and the flame dims into silence. You awake again, but you are never exactly the same flame as before. Something has shifted, however subtly. To see this clearly is to understand impermanence, one of the deepest truths in Buddhism. Impermanence is not just about death or decay. It is also about renewal, about how each night allows a new beginning. This is why awareness of sleep is not separate from awareness of life. The same qualities that help you rest, letting go, trusting, softening, are the ones that help you live happier. Each time you surrender to sleep with awareness, you are practicing a kind of courage. The courage to release control, to accept change, to welcome silence. Over time, this transforms how you face your days. Stress loses some of its grip because you have trained yourself to release. Anxiety loosens because you know how to soften. Self-importance fades because you see, again and again, that the self is not as fixed as you once believed. For those who suffered with insomnia, this teaching is particularly liberating. The usual approach is to fight, to count, to control, to wrestle the mind into stillness. But awareness says, stop fighting, look gently at what is present. Maybe it is restlessness, maybe sadness, maybe fear. Whatever it is, meet it with presence, not resistance. That simple shift often eases the very tension that blocks rest. Sleep comes not by force but by surrender, and awareness is the path to surrender. Buddhist teachers sometimes describe the three states, waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, as a cycle of illusion and truth. Waking is the illusion of a solid self. Dreaming is the play of the mind. Deep sleep is the taste of emptiness. The wise use all three as teachings. In waking life, awareness shows you the ego is a performance. In dreams, awareness shows you how the mind creates whole worlds out of nothing. In sleep, awareness shows you freedom from both. Together, they reveal the path to nirvana, not as some distant heaven, but as the very texture of your own mind. As you reflect on this, notice how your relationship with sleep begins to change. No longer a nightly struggle, it becomes an ally. No longer a blank void, it becomes a teacher. And this shift brings both rest and happiness. Rest because you are no longer fighting. Happiness because you begin to live from a place of freedom rather than clinging. The more you practice awareness, the more subtle your perception becomes. You start to notice how the mind resists sleep, how it clings to thought, how it fears silence. But instead of being trapped by these habits, you observe them like passing clouds. In this way, each night becomes a meditation, each dreamless interval a glimpse of liberation. Over time, the boundary between meditation and sleep dissolves, and both become expressions of the same truth. The self is not as fixed as you believe, and peace is closer than you think. This lesson is not about theories to memorize, but about experience to feel. Tonight, when you lay your head down, remember the self that worries, the self that fears, the self that clings, none of it survives deep sleep. And yet, something deeper continues. Rest in that, trust that. That is the foundation of awareness, the key to both sleep and happiness. The awareness that the self dissolves each night is not only a lesson in freedom, but also an invitation to approach life with greater tenderness. When you see how fragile the identity is, how it vanishes and reappears like a shadow at dawn, you begin to feel the weight of impermanence pressing gently on your heart. It is here that compassion must arise, not only for the world but also for yourself. Before you can sleep in peace, you must learn the art of letting go. This is what many Buddhist teachers call the practice of daily death. Daily death is not about fear, it is about release. Every night, you are given a chance to practice the great letting go, the same letting go that death will one day demand from you. To carry this practice into sleep means to unburden yourself, to place down what you cannot carry into the night. The quarrels, the regrets, the heavy expectations, the tight grip on tomorrow, all of it belongs to the waking self. And the waking self does not survive the night. To cling to it in bed is to fight against the very nature of sleep itself. The practice begins with honesty. At the end of each day, ask yourself, what am I holding on to that I cannot take into the night? Perhaps it is a resentment towards someone who spoke harshly to you. Perhaps it is guilt for not finishing your tasks. Perhaps it is fear of what tomorrow may bring. These weights keep the mind restless. The Buddhist approach is to see them clearly, name them, and then release them, not by forcing them away, but by recognizing their impermanent nature. Impermanence is not an abstract concept. You see it every day, in the face of a withering flower, in the changing seasons, in the lines deepening on your own skin. Everything shifts, everything flows. To resist that truth is to suffer. To accept it is to find peace. When you lay in bed, aware of impermanence, you remind yourself, This resentment will pass. This guilt will pass. This fear will pass. None of it can be held forever. Death will take it from you one day, but tonight you practice releasing it willingly. This practice transforms the very quality of sleep. Instead of lying in bed consumed by unresolved feelings, you create a ritual of closure. Some people use prayer, some use journaling, some sit quietly in reflection. The method is less important than the intention: to meet the end of the day as if it were the end of a life. To look back with honesty, to acknowledge what has been done, to forgive what remains unfinished, and to rest in the knowledge that everything dissolves. Compassion begins here. Without compassion for yourself, letting go becomes harsh, almost like a punishment. But with compassion, you soften. You say to yourself, "I did my best with the time and energy I had today. I am human, I am learning, and it is enough." This kindness is the ground from which release becomes possible. Without it, you cling to perfection, to the need to be more, do more, control more. But the self that enters sleep cannot carry those burdens. Self-compassion is what allows the hand to finally unclench. Buddhist teachers often encouraged reflection on death, not to create fear, but to create clarity. When you remember that your days are numbered, the petty worries shrink. That harsh comment from a colleague, that delayed payment, that undone chore, they lose their power. What remains is what matters: kindness, honesty, presence. This same clarity can be brought to your nightly practice. Before sleep, remember, if this were the last time I close my eyes, what do I need to release? That question alone can clear the mind more deeply than hours of tossing and turning. There is also a practical wisdom in practicing daily death. Many people carry unresolved conversations in their minds. They replay words again and again, sharpening their own suffering. But when you see the day as finished, as gone forever, you no longer rehearse the past. You treat it as a story already ended. This frees the nervous system, which no longer has to brace for battles that are already over. The body rests when the mind stops pretending it can rewrite the past. Sleep, in this sense, is not just rest. It is forgiveness. Forgiveness of yourself for being imperfect, forgiveness of others for not meeting your expectations, forgiveness of life for not bending to your will. Every night is a chance to forgive, to loosen the knot of resentment that tightens throughout the day. Without this, sleep is shallow, troubled by dreams of conflict. With forgiveness, sleep becomes a surrender into peace. Compassion also means recognizing your own limits. So many people drive themselves with endless tasks, endless goals, as if life were a race to be completed. But when you view the night as a daily death, you see that every day must be complete in itself. The list will always remain unfinished. The work will always spill into tomorrow. To rest requires admitting this truth and treating yourself with kindness despite it. Instead of berating yourself for what was left undone, you give yourself permission to lay it down. In that act, compassion flows naturally. This practice of daily death also shifts your relationship with control. Much of your stress comes from trying to manage what is beyond you. You plan, you calculate, you imagine countless outcomes. But death shows you that all control is temporary. Each night, you rehearse this lesson: control is an illusion. The future unfolds whether or not you grip it tightly. By releasing control at night, you prepare yourself to meet the morning with greater calm. Instead of clinging to plans, you learn to meet what comes. This flexibility is one of the deepest forms of compassion you can offer yourself. Some people fear the thought of death, but this nightly practice transforms that fear into trust. Death is no longer a terror but a teacher. You see that letting go does not end you, it frees you. Each morning you rise renewed, lighter for having laid down your burdens. This rehearsal lessens the ultimate fear, so that when the final night comes, it is not a stranger but a familiar friend. The practice of daily death makes you more alive, more grateful, more awake to the present, because you no longer take tomorrow for granted. To live this way is to weave compassion into every layer of your being. Compassion for the part of you that strives, compassion for the part that fails, compassion for the part that fears. Each night you embrace them all, and then you release them. This is not denial but wisdom. The recognition that clinging to what fades only multiplies suffering. Letting go is the highest kindness. Practical rituals can support this. Some choose to light a candle at night, watching the flame as a reminder of the day burning down. Others write down their worries on paper and place them aside, symbolically handing them to the night. Some recite verses of gratitude, acknowledging the gifts of the day before letting them pass. These acts are not superstitions but skillful means, anchors for the mind to recognize the day's ending. Each one reinforces the truth. This chapter is finished. Now it is time to release. Daily death also reshapes how you view relationships. Every night, you recognize that you cannot control how others see you, what they think, or how they act. The anger, the misunderstandings, the longing, all must be let go with the setting Sunday. This does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop demanding that life conform to your desires. In this release, relationships become lighter, less entangled, more rooted in genuine care rather than control. Compassion extends outward because you are no longer clinging to your own script. When sleep comes after this letting go, it carries a different quality. The dreams are less troubled, the body rests more deeply, and the mind awakens with clarity. You do not wake with the heaviness of unfinished arguments or unprocessed fears. Instead, you rise like someone who has been reborn, because in a way, you have. Daily death is not a loss, it is a rebirth into presence. The wisdom of impermanence becomes not only a teaching, but a lived experience. Each night you practice, each morning you awaken, you are reshaping your relationship with life itself. You begin to see that happiness does not come from clinging, from control, from finishing every task. Happiness comes from the freedom to let go, from compassion for yourself in your imperfection, from trust in the flow of life. This is why monks practiced reflection before bed, often chanting verses that reminded them of death. Not as a morbid ritual, but as a reminder to live fully, to release what no longer serves, to rest without regret. In this way, their sleep became meditation, their nights became as meaningful as their days. You too can adopt this practice, not by retreating to a monastery, but by turning your bedroom into a space of release, a place where the day is allowed to end with dignity. The practice of daily death is the highest expression of self-compassion. To release is not to abandon yourself, but to honor yourself. To let go of anger, guilt, or fear is not weakness, but wisdom. It is a recognition that your heart deserves rest, that your mind deserves peace, that your body deserves stillness. By treating each night as a sacred rehearsal, you give yourself the gift of freedom again and again. And in this freedom, both sleep and happiness blossom naturally. Letting go before sleep is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of another path that unfolds in the hidden hours of the night. When the body rests and the conscious mind loosens its grip, a different kind of world opens. This world is not bound by the rules of waking life. It bends, it shifts, it surprises. For many, dreams feel like nonsense or random noise, but to Buddhist practitioners, dreams are not accidents. They are mirrors, reflecting the patterns of the mind, the imprints of karma, and the subtle energies that shape daily experience. To treat them as meaningless is to overlook one of the most profound teachers available to us. Dreams reveal the truth of how the mind works when it is free from the mask of daytime control. In waking life, you edit yourself. You hide certain emotions, you suppress impulses, and you pretend to be more stable than you really are. But at night, When the conscious gatekeeper relaxes, the mind speaks in images, stories, and emotions that rise from deeper layers. This is why Buddhist traditions, such as dream yoga, taught practitioners to pay close attention to what arises. Each dream holds a message, not in a superstitious sense, but as a direct reflection of the mental and karmic habits that shape life. When you look at dreams through this lens, you begin to see them as living lessons. A dream of running from something can point to fears you deny in daylight. A dream of conflict may reveal unresolved anger. A dream of loss may expose attachments that weigh heavily on the heart. The images may be strange, but the emotions are precise. This is the Dharma of dreams. They show you what you most need to see, often in ways that bypass the intellect. In Buddhist teachings, karma is not fate. It is the momentum of past actions and choices. Every thought, word, and deed leaves an imprint, and these imprints ripple through the mind. Dreams are one way these imprints surface. If you have lived with kindness, your dreams often carry lightness. If you have been consumed by greed or fear, your dreams can become tangled, heavy, even nightmarish. In this way, dreams become feedback, showing you the shape of your karma in real time. To dismiss them is to throw away a mirror that could reveal how to grow. Dream yoga developed as a way to use this mirror consciously. Practitioners trained themselves to recognize that they were dreaming, a state now called lucid dreaming. But unlike modern lucid dreaming practices, the goal was not to control the dream or seek pleasure. The purpose was awareness. To see the dream as dream, to rest in the recognition that all experiences, whether waking or sleeping, are constructed by the mind. This insight cut directly to the heart of Buddhist wisdom. Everything is impermanent. Everything is empty of fixed identity. Everything arises and passes through causes and conditions. Dreams are the perfect teacher of this because they show you entire worlds built out of nothing but thought. Think of how a dream can feel completely real until the moment of waking. You can laugh, cry, sweat, or panic in response to something that has no physical reality. The body reacts as if it were real. Then you wake, and the illusion dissolves. But what about waking life? You take it as real, solid, undeniable. Yet from the perspective of Buddhist insight, waking life is another kind of dream. It feels real only because you are immersed in it, because the mind projects solidity onto the flow of changing conditions. In this way, dreams become a rehearsal for enlightenment. If you can see the dream as dream, perhaps you can also see waking life as dreamlike, impermanent, insubstantial, and free. The emotional content of dreams is also a direct training in mindfulness. A nightmare that floods you with fear can show you where fear hides in your daily life. A joyful dream can reveal what nourishes your heart. By reflecting on these experiences upon waking, you cultivate self-knowledge. The practice is not to obsess over symbols or to force fixed meanings onto every image, but to feel the emotional tone and connect it to the patterns of thought and action in daily life. In this way, dreams become teachers of both wisdom and compassion. Compassion grows when you realize that the struggles in your dreams are often the same struggles others face in waking life. If you wake from a dream of fear, you know what fear feels like in its raw form. This helps you understand others who live with fear each day. If you wake from a dream of longing, you understand the ache of desire that drives so many choices. By recognizing these states within yourself, even in dreams, you expand your ability to connect with others without judgment. Dreams also reveal how much of your suffering is self-created. You can dream of being trapped in a room, terrified, until you wake and realize there was no prison at all. How many times in waking life do you feel trapped by circumstances, only to later see that much of it was your own mind's creation? Dream practice helps you catch this earlier. When you realize how easily the mind can construct entire worlds, you become less attached to the solidity of your waking troubles. This does not mean dismissing them, but meeting them with a lighter heart. Some Buddhist texts describe dreams as the play of consciousness when freed from the senses. During the day, the mind is tied to sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell. At night, these inputs are silent, and the mind turns inward. What arises then are the deeper imprints of thought and karma. By paying attention, you begin to map the hidden architecture of your mind. You see which habits are strong, which desires return again and again, which fears never rest. This awareness is not meant to depress you, but to guide you. It shows you where to place your practice, where to cultivate compassion, where to let go. There is a discipline in approaching dreams this way. Upon waking, instead of rushing into your day, you pause. You reflect on what the night revealed. You notice not only the story, but the feeling it left behind. Did you wake with a sense of peace or agitation? Did the dream expose an attachment you were unaware of? Did it reveal kindness, cruelty, or confusion? Each observation is a lesson. In this way, your sleep becomes as much a part of practice as meditation or study. Even nightmares, often dismissed as disturbances, are teachers. They show you what the mind resists. They bring shadow material into the open. Instead of fearing them, you can learn to meet them with compassion. If you are chased in a dream, perhaps in waking life you are running from a truth within yourself. If you lose something precious in a dream, perhaps you are clinging too tightly in life. Meeting these lessons with curiosity instead of fear transforms nightmares into guides. Over time, this approach to dreams reshapes how you see reality itself. You stop dividing life into useful and useless, real and unreal. You begin to see that everything waking or dreaming is a display of mind, an opportunity for awareness. This dissolves the boundary between night and day. Sleep is no longer just a break from living, but an extension of the path. Dreams are not interruptions, but instructions. The practice of dream awareness also strengthens mindfulness in waking hours. If you can train yourself to recognize the dream state, you sharpen the skill of noticing thoughts and emotions as they arise in daily life. The moment you see this is only a thought, you gain freedom. Just as recognizing a dream as dream frees you from its grip, recognizing a thought as thought frees you from unnecessary suffering. This is the bridge dream yoga offers, from nighttime awareness to daytime liberation. Dreams also serve as a reminder of the mystery of consciousness itself. Despite centuries of study, no scientist or philosopher can fully explain why dreams arise or why consciousness persists at all. In Buddhist thought, this mystery is not a problem to be solved, but a wonder to be embraced. Each dream is a glimpse into the boundless creativity of mind, the endless ways it can weave worlds. By contemplating this, you cultivate awe, humility, and respect for the depth of your own being. By treating dreams as Dharma teachers, you begin to live with greater curiosity, patience, and openness. You no longer dismiss parts of yourself as meaningless or broken. You see that even in the strangest dream, the mind is showing you something about its own nature. And through this recognition, you strengthen the qualities of awareness and compassion that Buddhism holds at its core. The night, once overlooked, becomes rich with guidance. Each dream, whether tender or terrifying, becomes a teaching. Each awakening in the dark becomes a chance to deepen mindfulness. With this practice, sleep is no longer just recovery, but revelation. And happiness arises naturally, not from controlling life, but from understanding it at every level, awake, asleep, and beyond. Dreams reveal how the mind creates worlds, but what often follows those insights is the struggle to fall back asleep. Many people experience it. The body feels heavy, the room is quiet, yet rest refuses to come. The harder you try, the further it slips away. This struggle is not just physical, it is a reflection of how you approach life itself. In Buddhism, this restless pushing is called striving, and it is one of the most subtle forms of suffering. To rest fully, you must learn the art of non-striving. Non-striving does not mean laziness or indifference. It is a way of being where effort flows naturally, without force, without the heavy hand of control. Zen calls it Wu Wei, effortless effort. It is the paradox that when you stop trying so hard, what you wanted begins to happen. Sleep is the perfect example. The more you demand it, the more the mind tightens. The more the mind tightens, the less rest arrives. But when you let go, when you stop making sleep a battle, the body finds its natural rhythm. This principle runs deeper than bedtime. It exposes how often you live by pushing, clenching, forcing outcomes. You try to control your day, control others, control your emotions, and this same control follows you to bed. Yet rest is the one place where control is impossible. Sleep cannot be commanded. It comes when conditions are right. The wisdom of non-striving teaches that peace comes not from fighting harder, but from loosening the grip. Think of how breath works. If you try to breathe perfectly, controlling every inhale and exhale, the breath becomes shallow and unnatural. But when you release control, the body breathes with ease, deeper than effort can reach. Sleep is like that. It arrives when you step out of the way. The mind, however, does not like stepping aside. It believes that effort is always the answer, that pushing harder is the path to results. Buddhism shows the opposite. Clinging creates suffering, and letting go creates space. Insomnia often comes from this trap. The mind says, "I must sleep now, I need rest for tomorrow." And the demand itself creates agitation. The harder you try, the more alert you become. This is the cycle of striving. Effort fuels resistance, resistance fuels effort. The way out is not more control but surrender. In Buddhism, surrender is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is knowing when to release control and allow nature to take its course. Wu Wei is often misunderstood as doing nothing, but it is better described as acting in harmony with the flow of conditions. A tree does not strain to grow. It grows because the soil, sun, and water support it. Sleep works the same way. If the body is nourished, the mind softened, and the heart released, rest appears. The effort is not in forcing sleep, but in preparing the conditions gently and then allowing. This is effortless effort, creating the ground, then letting go. The paradox of non-striving is that it requires awareness. You must see the impulse to force and recognize it for what it is, another form of clinging. Most people lie in bed unaware of how tense they are, unaware of the inner voice demanding control. With awareness, you notice the jaw tightening, the breath speeding, the shoulders resisting. In that noticing, you relax. This is how mindfulness bridges to rest, by exposing the striving hidden in the body and mind. The art of non-striving also teaches humility. You realize that you are not the master of every process. The heart beats, the lungs breathe, the cells repair, all without your control. Sleep is part of this same mystery. It is the body's wisdom, not the mind's achievement. To recognize this is to bow to life itself, to trust the intelligence that sustains you. This trust is the soil of peace. There is a reason why monks emphasize effortlessness. They knew that striving extends beyond sleep into the search for enlightenment. People who grasp at awakening with desperation often entangle themselves further. The path unfolds when striving eases, when awareness and compassion replace control. Sleep, then, becomes a nightly lesson in this truth. Each time you release striving, you rehearse the wisdom of the path. Non-striving can be practiced in small ways before bed. You can sit quietly, not to force calmness, but simply to notice what is present. Thoughts may rise, feelings may come, and instead of trying to fix them, You watch. The mind begins to settle not because you demanded it, but because you stopped feeding it with resistance. This approach can extend to how you lie down. Instead of commanding sleep, you allow the body to sink, the breath to move naturally, the thoughts to drift without judgment. Slowly, rest comes on its own. There is also a deep link between striving and fear. When you try too hard to sleep, it is often because you fear tomorrow, fear exhaustion, fear failure. The mind transforms rest into a battlefield. But when you release striving, you also release fear. You remind yourself, even without perfect sleep, I will manage. Even without control, life continues. This softens the urgency, and in softening, sleep arrives. Non-striving also reshapes how you measure success. Many people treat rest like another achievement, another goal to master. But when you live this way, even sleep becomes stressful. The art of effortless effort shifts the frame. Rest is not an accomplishment, but a return to balance. You do not earn it, you allow it. This gentle reframing reduces pressure and opens space for true rest. Zen often uses metaphors of nature to explain this. Water flows effortlessly around rocks. It does not push, it does not resist. Bamboo bends in the storm and rises again when the wind passes. These images remind you that softness can be stronger than force. To sleep well, you must become like water, flowing instead of fighting. You must become like bamboo, yielding instead of breaking. This is the wisdom of non-striving. Over time, practicing effortless effort in sleep influences waking life. You notice how often you force conversations, force outcomes, force yourself into exhaustion. You begin to loosen in daily life, trusting that many things resolve when given space. This shift brings not only better rest, but deeper happiness. Life feels less like a war and more like a dance. Non-striving is also an antidote to perfectionism. The belief that you must perform even in rest, that you must sleep flawlessly, is another chain. To break it, you accept imperfection. Some nights will be restless, some sleep will be shallow, and that is part of the human condition. By embracing imperfection, you free yourself from the anxiety that blocks rest. Ironically, in accepting less, you often receive more. There is also a spiritual depth in non-striving. By surrendering the need to control, you align with the deeper rhythms of existence. You see that life unfolds beyond your command, and in that recognition, a profound peace arises. Sleep becomes more than rest. It becomes communion with the mystery that sustains all things. When you lie awake, struggling, remember this teaching. The very act of struggling is the barrier. The cure is not to try harder, but to soften. The art of non-striving is to meet rest as a guest, not a prize. You prepare a place, you open the door, and then you wait with patience. Sleep will arrive in its own time, as it always has. In this gentle way, you transform insomnia into insight, restlessness into release, and sleep into a nightly practice of wisdom. The practice of non-striving opens the door to rest by loosening the grip of control. Yet there is another doorway, subtle and often overlooked, that arises from the body itself. Long before the mind decides it is time to sleep, the body sends gentle signals. One of the clearest of these signals is the yawn. Most people dismiss it as nothing more than fatigue or boredom, but in Buddhist practice, yawning can be understood as an invitation, a sacred reminder that the body knows when it is ready to surrender. When treated with awareness, even the simplest act like yawning becomes a meditation, a moment of connection with the wisdom of the body. Yawning is often ridiculed, hidden behind hands, stifled in meetings, or seen as impolite. Yet in truth it is one of the most honest expressions of human nature. The body stretches open, the breath deepens, and the nervous system signals a shift. In the Buddhist view, Every natural movement of the body can be a teacher if you are willing to pay attention. Yawning is no different. It is not just a sign of sleepiness, but a gateway to a deeper state of rest. By bringing mindfulness to this act, you begin to cultivate a more intimate relationship with your body and its needs. Science offers some insight into the mystery of yawning. It is linked to shifts in brain temperature, oxygen intake, and even social bonding. But beyond the biological explanations lies a deeper truth. Yawning is a threshold. It signals that the body is preparing to step out of active striving and into surrender. When you yawn, the body is telling you it is time to soften. If you dismiss it, if you push through with caffeine or distraction, you override a natural rhythm. Over time, ignoring these signals creates imbalance, leading to chronic fatigue and disturbed sleep. Mindfulness asks you to stop and notice. What happens when you yawn? The face stretches wide, the lungs expand, the body involuntarily relaxes. If you bring awareness to this moment, you feel how the tension begins to dissolve. The yawn itself is an act of letting go, not forced but spontaneous. To meet it with mindfulness is to deepen its effect. Instead of hiding it or resisting it, you allow it fully, breathing into the spaciousness it creates. This is why some Buddhist teachers referred to yawning as a hidden meditation, an effortless practice of release woven into the fabric of daily life. The act of honoring a yawn can shift your entire relationship with rest. Rather than seeing it as a weakness or inconvenience, you begin to treat it as a sacred invitation. Each yawn becomes a bell of mindfulness, calling you back to your body. It reminds you that the body carries its own wisdom, often more reliable than the restless demands of the mind. In a culture that prizes constant activity, listening to the yawn is a radical act of compassion. It is saying yes to the body's truth, instead of bowing to the pressure of endless productivity. This awareness also cultivates humility. Yawning is not something you can control. It arises when it will, regardless of your plans. By embracing it, you accept that the body follows rhythms beyond your command. This acceptance is itself a form of surrender. It teaches you to trust, to allow, to honor the wisdom that flows through you without your effort. When you bring this trust into your nightly routine, sleep becomes less about forcing and more about allowing what is already unfolding. Practicing mindful yawning can be simple yet profound. When a yawn arises, pause. Do not rush past it. Feel the stretch in the jaw, the coolness of the breath as it enters, the softening that follows. Notice how, after a full yawn, the body feels more grounded, more ready to let go. This practice can be extended into bedtime. As you lie down, you may even invite yawns by gently opening the mouth and breathing deeply, not to fake the act but to create space for it to emerge naturally. With each yawn, you step closer to surrender. There is also a communal dimension to yawning. It is famously contagious. Seeing or hearing someone yawn often triggers your own. Rather than treating this as a quirk, Buddhist practice might see it as evidence of shared humanity. Yawning spreads because rest is a collective rhythm. The body responds to the bodies around it, reminding you that you are not separate. To practice mindful yawning is to remember that your rest too is part of a greater web. You breathe not only for yourself, but in harmony with life around you. Yawning also reflects the principle of impermanence. Each yawn arises suddenly, expands fully, and dissolves without effort. In this way, it is like a miniature cycle of life and death. By noticing it, you train yourself to observe how all experiences arise and pass. This prepares the mind for sleep, which itself is a nightly rehearsal of impermanence. Honoring a yawn, then, is not trivial. It is an act of training the mind to release gracefully. Children naturally know this. They do not hide their yawns or suppress them. They let them unfold with total presence, sometimes even laughing afterward. Adults lose this innocence, replacing it with shame or suppression. Returning to mindful yawning is like returning to that childlike wisdom, trusting the body's signals without judgment. It is a return to honesty, to simplicity, to compassion for your own limits. There is also a subtle, energetic quality to yawning. In many contemplative traditions, yawning is associated with shifts in energy flow, with the release of blocked tension. Some practitioners even see it as a sign that the body and mind are aligning, preparing for deeper states of meditation or rest. Whether or not you accept this interpretation, what is clear is that yawning marks a transition. It signals movement from activity to stillness, from control to surrender. By treating it with mindfulness, you allow that transition to deepen, carrying you more easily into rest. In daily life, yawning can become a reminder to pause. Even outside of bedtime, a sudden yawn may be the body's way of saying it needs a breath, a moment of release. Instead of reaching for another cup of coffee or forcing more productivity, you can use the yawn as a bell of awareness. Close your eyes for a moment, breathe, and let the body reset. This not only improves rest at night but also brings more balance to your waking hours. The practice of mindful yawning also teaches gratitude. Each time the body guides you toward rest, you have an opportunity to thank it. Gratitude turns even the smallest gesture into a gift. To thank the body for yawning is to recognize its wisdom, its care for you, its constant work to keep you balanced. Gratitude softens resistance and deepens the sense of compassion that is central to Buddhist practice. When approached with mindfulness, yawning ceases to be ordinary. It becomes extraordinary in its simplicity, a gateway hidden in plain sight, offering you a chance to align with the natural rhythms of life. By honoring it, you honor yourself. By following it, you move closer to the rest you seek. It is not through effort but through attention, not through control but through surrender, that this subtle gateway opens fully. The art of resting well is not built only on grand practices or long meditations. Sometimes it rests on the smallest gestures, the breath, the posture, the yawn. To recognize these cues and treat them with reverence is to live in harmony with the body and the mind. And when this harmony deepens, rest comes not as a struggle but as a natural unfolding. Each yawn, honored and received, carries you further along the path of release, until sleep itself arrives as the most natural surrender of all. Yawning shows the body's natural wisdom, guiding you gently toward surrender. When you honor that cue, the nervous system relaxes and the gateway to rest opens wider. But the body's signals are only part of the journey. The heart and mind also need care before sleep can deepen into true peace. If the heart is heavy with resentment, fear, or loneliness, the body may yawn, but rest will still resist. This is why ancient Buddhist teachings offer the 4 Brahmaviharas qualities of the awakened heart as nightly companions. When practiced before bed, they soften the mind, ease anxiety, and protect sleep from nightmares. The first is loving kindness, the steady wish for yourself and others to be well. To cultivate this before sleep is to wrap your mind in warmth rather than worry. Instead of rehearsing tomorrow's problems, you silently repeat phrases of goodwill. May I be safe, may I be at ease, may I rest in peace tonight. Then you extend it outward to loved ones, to strangers, even to those you struggle with. This gentle radiance changes the atmosphere of the mind. Neuroscience shows that such practices calm the amygdala, the brain's fear center, lowering anxiety. But beyond biology, the practice prepares your dreams. When the last thoughts of the day are kind ones, the night is less likely to bring terror. Instead, rest is guarded by benevolence. Compassion is the second quality. Where loving kindness offers goodwill, compassion responds to suffering. At night, the mind often replays mistakes or pain. Instead of pushing these away, compassion allows you to hold them gently. You acknowledge your own struggles without judgment, offering yourself care rather than criticism. This is vital because harshness toward yourself keeps the mind restless. Compassion softens the grip of self-blame, creating the conditions for release. Extending compassion outward is equally powerful. Many monks would fall asleep by reflecting, "Just as I suffer, countless beings suffer. May they all find relief." This broadening of perspective shrinks the prison of self-concern, replacing it with a tender awareness of the shared human condition. Dreams that rise from such a heart carry less loneliness, less violence, more connection. The third Brahmavihara is joy, but not the fleeting joy of achievement or possession. It is sympathetic joy, the ability to delight in the happiness of others. At night, instead of envying or comparing, you celebrate. You recall someone else's success, a child's laughter, a friend's good news, and you let that gladness fill you. This practice counteracts the envy and bitterness that often poison rest. The heart that rejoices easily is a light heart, one that sleeps without the burden of comparison. Even the body responds. Joy releases endorphins and balances hormones, supporting deeper cycles of rest. On the path of dream yoga, joy is also seen as protective. A joyful mind produces dreams that uplift rather than disturb. The final quality is equanimity. This is the balance that keeps the other three from turning into attachment or exhaustion. Loving kindness without equanimity can become clinging. Compassion without equanimity can become overwhelm. Joy without equanimity can become craving. Equanimity steadies them all. To cultivate it before bed is to remind yourself, things change, people come and go, the day has ended. You let go of the need to control outcomes. This balanced acceptance prevents the mind from grasping at tomorrow's uncertainties. Equanimity at night is like a blanket over the fire of the mind. It allows the flames of agitation to cool into glowing embers of calm. When these four qualities are woven into a nightly ritual, they transform the experience of sleep. Instead of entering the night burdened with unresolved emotions, you enter with a heart that has been cleansed. You drift off not in conflict but in peace. Buddhist texts often describe the Brahmaviharas as divine abodes, states of dwelling that elevate the heart. To fall asleep in such an abode is to rest in heaven, even while still alive. Nightmares are less likely because the mind is not seeded with violence or fear. Anxiety lessens because equanimity tempers desire and worry. The heart rests easier when it has been bathed in kindness. Practicing these meditations does not require hours. Just a few minutes of reflection is enough to shift the inner landscape. Some people repeat traditional phrases. Others visualize offering light or warmth to others. Some simply breathe and let these qualities arise naturally. The method matters less than the sincerity. What matters is that the final impressions of the day are wholesome, not tangled. In Buddhism, the state of mind at the moment of sleep influences the state of dreams. By practicing the Brahmaviharas, you shape your dreams toward clarity and compassion. There is also a karmic dimension. Each night is not only a preparation for rest, but also for tomorrow's life. By planting seeds of kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity at night, you nourish tendencies that blossom during the day. This continuity deepens practice. The heart trained at night is more resilient in daylight. Sleep and waking life begin to support each other in a cycle of peace. These meditations also strengthen the bond between self-compassion and compassion for others. If you practice only kindness toward others but neglect yourself, rest will remain shallow. If you care only for yourself but close your heart to others, rest will be restless. The Brahmaviharas balance both directions. They teach that care must flow in all directions, inward and outward, without discrimination. This balance is especially healing at night, when the boundaries of self loosen. To fall asleep with a heart that embraces both self and world is to rest in wholeness. In modern life, where anxiety and insomnia are common, this practice is revolutionary. Instead of fighting sleep with medication or distraction, you transform the cause, the state of the heart. Ancient monks knew that the mind's last impression before sleep carries immense weight. They deliberately ended the day with these meditations, ensuring that the night carried the fragrance of peace. This is not superstition, but psychology at its deepest. What you feed your heart becomes the climate of your rest. When nightmares do arise, the Brahma Viharas offer tools for response. Waking from fear, you can extend compassion to yourself, calming the heart. You can send kindness to the figures in the dream, seeing them as aspects of your own mind. You can rejoice in the simple fact of awakening that the terror has passed. And you can steady yourself with equanimity, remembering that dreams are transient and empty. In this way, even nightmares become part of the practice, transformed into opportunities for the awakened heart. The beauty of this teaching is its accessibility. Anyone can practice it. You do not need advanced training or years of meditation experience. You need only sincerity and attention. Each night, as you prepare for bed, instead of scrolling through screens or worrying over tomorrow, you pause, you turn inward, you open the heart, and you rest in these 4 divine qualities. Over time, this becomes as natural as brushing your teeth. Sleep is no longer only physical repair, but also spiritual nourishment. In this way, the Brahma Viharas reveal themselves as more than meditations. They are medicines. Medicines for the restless mind, for the anxious heart, for the soul burdened by conflict. To end the day with them is to close the book of the day with grace, leaving no unfinished sentences. You enter sleep with a clear heart, and in that clarity, rest blossoms. Through loving kindness, you bathe the night in warmth. Through compassion, you soothe the wounds of the day. Through joy, you open to delight even in darkness. Through equanimity, you release control and surrender to peace. Together, they form a ritual that transforms sleep from a struggle into a sanctuary. And when you awaken, it is not only with a rested body, but with a heart renewed, ready to meet the world with the same qualities you carried into the night. When the heart has been softened by kindness, compassion, joy, and balance, sleep becomes lighter and dreams less troubled. Yet even with the purest intentions, there will be nights when rest does not come. The body turns, the mind circles, and the clock seems louder with every passing minute. Many people grow angry or fearful in these hours, thinking something is wrong with them, believing that wakefulness at night is a failure. But Buddhism offers another path. Instead of fighting wakefulness, you can transform it. Nighttime restlessness does not need to be an enemy. It can become a teacher. And one of the most direct ways to do this is through mindful walking. Walking meditation is one of the simplest yet most profound practices in Buddhism. Unlike seated meditation, which focuses on stillness, walking meditation uses movement as its anchor. Each step becomes a breath, each stride a chance to come home to the present. For someone restless at night, this practice is especially healing. The body that resists stillness often welcomes gentle movement. By walking mindfully, you soothe both muscles and mind, turning sleeplessness into an opportunity for awareness. The first step is to reframe restlessness. Instead of labeling it insomnia or a problem, see it as energy that needs to be guided. In Buddhist thought, suffering arises not from what happens, but from the resistance to what happens. When you fight wakefulness, you add a second layer of pain, anger, anxiety, frustration. When you accept it and choose to walk with it, the tension begins to dissolve. The practice is not about forcing sleep, but about using wakefulness as a chance to deepen mindfulness. To practice walking meditation at night, You do not need a large space. A hallway, a small room, even a few steps back and forth are enough. The key is attention. You place one foot on the ground with awareness, feeling the contact, the weight, the shift of balance, then the next. Breath flows naturally with each step. The mind anchors itself in the rhythm of movement. What was once a prison of tossing and turning becomes a sanctuary of gentle motion. There is a natural calming effect in this practice. Movement helps release the physical tension that often builds during restless nights. Muscles soften, the breath deepens, and the nervous system shifts from alertness to ease. But beyond biology, the practice carries spiritual depth. Each step becomes a symbol of letting go of expectation, of control, of the demand for sleep. You simply walk, aware, alive in the present moment. Some Buddhist teachers describe walking meditation as planting seeds with your feet. Each step lays down the intention of peace, of patience, of compassion. At night, when the world is quiet, this intention feels especially powerful. You are not merely pacing in frustration, you are cultivating the ground of your mind. In this way, sleeplessness becomes sacred. The practice also shifts your relationship with time. Restless nights often feel unbearable because you are counting hours, worrying about the morning. Time becomes an enemy, but in walking meditation, time dissolves. There is no rush, no deadline, only step after step. By entering this timeless rhythm, you remove the pressure that fuels insomnia. The night is no longer wasted, it becomes practice. Mindful walking also reveals the truth of impermanence. No step is the same as the one before. Each rise and fall of the foot is unique, never to be repeated. By noticing this, you train yourself to see how every moment arises and passes. The anxiety of wakefulness begins to feel less permanent. You see clearly, this too will pass. Even restlessness is transient, like a wave that rises and falls. This insight alone often brings peace, which in turn prepares the mind for rest. There is also compassion in walking meditation. As you walk, you can silently extend wishes for peace not only for yourself, but for others who are also awake in the night. The nurse working in a hospital, the parent caring for a sick child, the person lying restless in another bed across the city. By linking your practice to the wider web of humanity, loneliness dissolves. You see that your wakefulness connects you to others, and in wishing them well, your own burden lightens. For some, mindful walking at night becomes more than a remedy for restlessness. It becomes a treasured ritual. The silence of night, the absence of distractions, makes awareness sharper. Every sound, every sensation feels vivid. The creak of the floor, the coolness of the air, the rhythm of the breath, these details draw you into intimacy with life. What once felt like a curse becomes a gift, a time of deeper connection. Over time, this practice changes how you view sleeplessness altogether. Instead of fearing it, you begin to see it as another doorway to mindfulness. You no longer dread waking in the night. You know that if rest does not come, practice awaits. This trust removes the anxiety that feeds insomnia. Ironically, by no longer demanding sleep, you make it more likely to arrive. When the body feels safe, when the mind feels steady, rest often follows naturally after walking. Walking meditation also aligns with the body's rhythms. At night, the nervous system often carries the residue of the day, arguments, stress, screens. Movement helps discharge this energy. By walking slowly and mindfully, you give the body a way to process and release. When you return to bed, you do not carry the same weight. The ground beneath your feet has absorbed some of it, leaving you lighter. The practice can also be adapted. Some prefer silent walking, focusing only on the contact of foot and floor. Others pair it with breath awareness, synchronizing steps with inhalation and exhalation. Some integrate phrases such as peace with this step or release with this breath. Each adaptation carries the same essence, turning wakefulness into mindfulness. For those who fear the long nights, this practice restores agency. Instead of lying helpless, trapped in thought, you have a path to walk. Each step becomes a choice, a turning of suffering into practice. This empowerment itself eases anxiety. You are no longer at war with the night. You are walking with it, learning from it, resting in its silence even while awake. When sleep eventually returns, it does so not out of exhaustion but out of harmony. The mind has shifted from resistance to acceptance, the body from tension to ease. The quality of rest that follows walking meditation is often deeper, more nourishing. Dreams may feel calmer, the heart steadier. In this way, even insomnia becomes part of the path, another teacher on the journey of awareness and compassion. Nighttime restlessness is not a failure to sleep. It is an invitation to practice. By walking mindfully, you transform those hours into steps of peace. You discover that rest is not limited to lying down. Rest is the quality of presence, the quiet acceptance of what island. Each step at night becomes a testament to this truth. Even in wakefulness, you can rest. Even in sleeplessness, you can awaken. Walking meditation turns restlessness into presence, teaching you that even sleepless nights can carry meaning when you stop resisting and start walking with awareness. But there is a deeper layer beneath the surface of rest. Often, sleeplessness is not just about the body's rhythms or the mind's racing, it is the echo of how you live during the day. Buddhism teaches that sleep is not separate from conduct. The choices you make in speech, in food, in the media you consume, and in the way you treat others create subtle imprints that shape your nights. This is what can be called karmic detox, the cleansing of daily residue through mindful living so that sleep comes naturally, unhindered by the weight of unexamined actions. Karma is not a mysterious punishment from the universe, but the simple law of cause and effect. Every word spoken, every action taken, and every thought entertained leaves an imprint on the mind. These imprints resurface when you are quiet, and the night is when they often appear most strongly. If your day has been filled with harsh speech, hurried consumption, and restless distraction, the mind will carry those impressions into bed. You may find yourself restless, haunted by echoes of arguments, overstimulated by media, or heavy from indulgence. The body may crave rest, but the mind resists because it has not been purified. Sleep hygiene, in this Buddhist sense, goes far beyond brushing teeth or dimming lights. It is about how you live from morning until evening. Ethical living is sleep hygiene. Speaking truthfully, avoiding gossip, practicing restraint, these are not only moral guidelines but practical foundations for peaceful rest. When your words do not harm others, they do not rebound as inner conflict at night. The heart rests easier when it is not carrying guilt or hidden shame. A mind free from unnecessary harm slips more naturally into stillness. The food you eat also shapes sleep. Heavy, greasy, or excessive meals late in the day burden the body. Overindulgence disturbs the subtle rhythms needed for rest. In monasteries, meals are often taken earlier, not only for discipline but because the body rests more easily when digestion is not overworked at night. Mindful consumption is not deprivation, it is compassion for the body's limits. By choosing lighter, nourishing foods in the evening, you honor the body's need for balance. When the body feels light, the mind follows. Media consumption is another form of intake often overlooked. What you watch, read, and listen to leaves impressions as surely as food does. Violent images, endless scrolling, anxious news. These feed the mind in ways that linger long after the screens go dark. When you try to sleep, the echoes replay as restless thoughts or unsettling dreams. Buddhist discipline emphasizes guarding the senses, not to withdraw from life, but to protect the clarity of the mind. By choosing what you consume with care, you detoxify the heart. Just as you would not drink poison before bed, you can learn not to feed your mind with toxins that disturb rest. This karmic detox is not about perfection, but about awareness. The question is not whether you have consumed too much or spoken harshly, but whether you recognize the effects. Awareness allows adjustment. If you notice your heart is heavy from unkind words, you can practice forgiveness before bed. If you feel overfull from food, you can breathe deeply, acknowledge the body's work, and resolve to care more gently tomorrow. If you are overstimulated by media, you can pause, allow silence, and give the mind time to settle. Each step is an act of compassion, cleansing the residues of the day so they do not follow you into the night. Ethical living also extends to relationships. Resentments carried into the night become knots in sleep, surfacing as conflict in dreams or restlessness in the body. The practice of reconciliation, speaking honestly, forgiving quickly, softening grudges, acts as karmic hygiene. When you close the day without heavy grudges, the night becomes lighter. This is why many Buddhist teachers encouraged resolving conflicts before sleep, not letting anger harden overnight. To detox the heart is to protect the sanctuary of rest. Mindful consumption of time also plays a role. Filling the day with endless activity, never allowing pauses, creates a residue of restlessness that surfaces when you finally lie down. The nervous system, overstimulated, cannot simply switch off. By balancing activity with moments of stillness throughout the day, you prevent the buildup of this agitation. Walking slowly, breathing consciously, taking pauses, these small acts accumulate into a calmer night. Rest is not something you achieve only at bedtime. It is woven into the way you live each hour. There is a karmic link between compassion and sleep. When you act with kindness, when you live with integrity, the mind trusts itself. It does not need to replay conversations or question motives. This trust is the bedrock of rest. Conversely, when your actions are harmful or careless, the mind resists sleep. It circles, reviews, defends itself, trying to justify or erase what was done. This agitation is not punishment. It is the natural consequence of inner conflict. Ethical living clears the mind's conscience, creating space for stillness to settle naturally. Buddhist monastic codes highlight this connection. Monks and nuns keep strict precepts not only for spiritual progress, but also because a disciplined life produces peace. Simplicity in possessions, moderation in eating, honesty in speech, these create a lightness of being that supports deep rest. The same applies in ordinary life. Simplicity, moderation, and honesty are not lofty ideals, but practical ways to prepare the body and mind for sleep each night. The practice of karmic detox before bed can be structured as a gentle ritual. Reflect on the day's actions, acknowledge where you spoke with care and where you failed. Offer forgiveness to yourself and others. Review what you consumed, physically and mentally, and resolve to nourish yourself more wisely tomorrow. Let gratitude arise for the good that was done. In this way, you cleanse the heart. The mind, no longer carrying the heavy residue of the day, enters sleep with ease. There is also a subtle teaching here. Sleep itself can be viewed as a karmic mirror. If your nights are restless, they may be reflecting unexamined habits. If your dreams are agitated, they may be pointing to unresolved tensions. By listening to these reflections, you can adjust your conduct. Sleep then becomes not only a place of rest, but a form of feedback. It shows you how aligned or misaligned your daily actions are with the principles of balance and compassion. Over time, practicing karmic detox transforms the entire cycle of living and resting. Days become lighter because you are more aware of what you say, do, and consume. Nights become deeper because the heart is unburdened. This balance reinforces itself. Ethical living leads to peaceful sleep. Peaceful sleep strengthens ethical living. The cycle becomes one of healing rather than harm. To live mindfully is to rest mindfully. Each choice, each word, each intake is a seed planted in the soil of the mind. At night, those seeds sprout as dreams, emotions, or silence. By tending carefully to what you plant, you cultivate nights of ease and mornings of clarity. Sleep hygiene in the Buddhist sense is therefore not merely routine. It is a practice of compassion woven into every moment of the day. Rest that arises from karmic detox is not only longer or deeper, it is purer. The mind does not toss with guilt, the body does not resist with heaviness, the heart does not ache with unhealed wounds. Sleep becomes a sanctuary, a true refuge, because it is supported by the integrity of your waking life. In this way, each night is not a break from living, but the fruit of how you live. And when you wake, renewed, the cycle continues with clarity, carrying you forward into another day of mindful choices and compassionate presence. Cleansing your actions, words, and choices during the day clears the mind and prepares the heart for rest at night. Yet even with an unburdened conscience, the body sometimes carries hidden tension. Muscles tighten, the nervous system remains alert, and the mind, though calm, does not fully release. This is where breath becomes the bridge. In Buddhist practice, the breath is more than oxygen exchange. It is the rhythm of life itself, a thread connecting body, mind, and awareness. By shaping this rhythm with care, you can guide the nervous system into tranquility and open the body to serene sleep. Ancient practitioners discovered that specific breathing patterns influenced not only the physical body, but also the subtle flow of energy and the balance of the mind. While many people today treat breathing exercises as relaxation techniques, Buddhist breathing ratios were seen as gateways into deeper states of calm and insight. The length of each inhale, the pause before exhale, and the softness of release all shape the mind's landscape. When aligned, these rhythms create harmony between body and awareness, dissolving the agitation that often keeps people awake. The principle is simple. The nervous system responds to breath. Rapid, shallow breathing signals danger, keeping the body alert. Slow, steady breathing signals safety, allowing the body to rest. But Buddhist teachers refined this further. They observed that not just slowness, but proportion matters. Balancing inhale, pause, and exhale in particular ways created profound stillness. These ratios became part of meditative traditions, preparing practitioners not only for sleep, but for deeper states of concentration and even liberation. One of the most well-known ratios is extending the exhale longer than the inhale. For example, inhaling gently for 4 counts and exhaling for 6 or 8. This pattern stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, the branch responsible for rest and digestion. Each long exhale tells the body it is safe, that vigilance is no longer needed. When practiced before bed, this ratio soothes racing thoughts and relaxes the heart rate, allowing sleep to arrive naturally. Unlike forcing stillness, the breath trains the body from within, shifting it into ease. There are also practices that emphasize equal breathing, inhale and exhale of the same length. This symmetry creates balance, stabilizing the mind. In Buddhist teachings, balance is essential. Too much effort leads to strain, too little to dullness. Equal breathing reflects this middle path. When practiced with awareness, it harmonizes inner energies, making the transition from wakefulness to rest smoother. This pattern is especially helpful when the mind feels scattered, restoring equilibrium before surrendering to sleep. Another ratio involves pauses, gentle spaces between inhale and exhale. These pauses are not forced holding but moments of stillness, like resting at the top of a wave before it falls. In Buddhist meditation, these gaps are precious. They reflect the silence beneath constant activity. Bringing awareness to these pauses before bed trains the mind to rest in stillness rather than chasing thoughts. Even a brief pause can reset the nervous system, offering a taste of the spacious calm that leads naturally to sleep. These breathing practices also connect to the understanding of energy channels, or prana, in Buddhist and yogic traditions. The breath is seen as the carrier of subtle energy, shaping how mind and body function. Agitated breathing scatters energy, steady breathing collects and centers it. At night, this centering is crucial. Without it, dreams become restless, sleep becomes shallow, and the body wakes unrefreshed. With mindful breathing ratios, energy aligns, supporting not only sleep but also clarity upon waking. The practice is not mechanical counting but mindful attention. Numbers can guide you, but the essence is awareness of the breath's quality. Is it rough or smooth, shallow or deep, restless or steady? By noticing and gently shaping the rhythm, you train the mind to soften and the body to follow. Over time, the ratios become natural. The body remembers them, slipping into calm without effort. This is why monks emphasize daily breathing practice, not as an isolated exercise, but as a lifelong habit of aligning breath and awareness. The effects of these breathing ratios extend beyond the night. Practicing them regularly conditions the nervous system to remain calmer throughout the day. Anxiety lessens, emotional reactivity decreases, and resilience strengthens. Sleep then becomes part of a greater cycle. Calm days support restful nights support calm days. This continuity reflects the Buddhist insight that there is no separation between moments. Each breath carries the seed of the next. Breathing ratios also carry symbolic depth. Inhaling represents receiving life, exhaling represents letting go. By lengthening the exhale, you practice release of control, of tension, of clinging. Each breath becomes a rehearsal of impermanence, teaching you that holding is temporary and release is natural. This lesson, practiced night after night, shapes not only sleep, but the way you meet life. You become more willing to let go of worries, conflicts, and desires, because your very breath has trained you in release. Some practitioners combine breathing with visualization. With each inhale, they sense peace entering. With each exhale, they release heaviness or agitation. This layering of awareness deepens the effect, transforming the act into meditation. At night, this can be especially potent. As the mind weaves images easily in the dark, pairing breath with wholesome imagery cleanses the subconscious, preparing the ground for gentle dreams. What makes these ancient breathing practices powerful is their accessibility. They require no tools, no environment, only awareness. Whether lying in bed, sitting quietly, or even standing in a dim room, you can begin. A few minutes of balanced breath shifts the entire climate of the mind. Unlike forceful efforts to sleep, which increase tension, these practices dissolve effort. They embody the principle of wu-wei rest, arising from alignment, not control. There is also humility in working with breath. You realize that life itself is carried by something so simple, so constant, yet so overlooked. Each breath is both fragile and sustaining, a reminder of impermanence and continuity. By honoring it before sleep, you turn the most ordinary act into sacred practice. This reverence transforms the night. Instead of collapsing into exhaustion, you enter sleep consciously, carried by rhythms that connect you to centuries of practice. Over time, the Buddhist breathing ratios become second nature. You no longer need to think about counts or techniques. The body finds its way into tranquility. Sleep becomes smoother, not as an escape, but as a continuation of mindful living. And when you awaken, the residue of practice remains. A mind steadier, a heart lighter, and a body attuned to balance. Through breath, you detoxify not only the body, but also the mind's agitation. Through rhythm, you align with the deeper currents of life. And through mindful practice, you discover that the key to serene sleep has always been carried in the rise and fall of each breath, waiting for your attention. In this way, the night becomes a temple, and the breath its prayer, leading you gently into the sanctuary of rest. The breath, steady and balanced, quiets the nervous system and lays the ground for rest. Yet even when the body is calm, the mind often keeps speaking. Thoughts rise like waves, circling again and again. Memories, worries, unfinished conversations, predictions about tomorrow. This mental chatter is one of the deepest obstacles to sleep. The body may be ready to let go, but the mind insists on rehearsing its stories. Buddhism offers a remedy for this ancient struggle: the power of mantra. Sacred syllables, repeated with awareness, act like keys that unlock silence. They dissolve agitation in the subconscious and invite the mind to rest in sound rather than in chaos. A mantra is not magic in the sense of superstition. Its power lies in rhythm, vibration, and focus. When the mind is restless, it clings to words and thoughts. By offering it a single word, a phrase, or a sound to repeat, you give it a channel. Instead of scattering across endless concerns, the mind gathers around one steady rhythm. Over time, this repetition silences the loops. The sound becomes a lullaby, not for children, but for the wandering mind. In Buddhism, mantras carry both meaning and energy. Some are phrases expressing compassion, wisdom, or surrender. Others are seed syllables, sounds that are said to resonate with the deepest layers of consciousness. Regardless of form, their purpose is the same: to bring the mind home. Before sleep, when mental noise is loudest, mantra becomes a bridge into stillness. It is not about forcing silence, but about redirecting attention from endless chatter to something steady and sacred. One of the most well-known mantras is Om Mani Padme Hum, associated with compassion. Each syllable is said to purify different aspects of being. Repeated gently before bed, it not only calms the mind, but also aligns the heart with compassion, softening dreams and reducing fear. Another simple practice is the repetition of Om, the primal sound of creation. Its vibration resonates deeply in the body, grounding the restless mind. Even without spiritual associations, the steady rhythm of repetition calms the nervous system, much like a lullaby sung by a parent. The power of mantras lies not only in sound, but in intention. When you chant, you are not merely repeating syllables, you are planting seeds. If the seed is compassion, the night carries compassion. If the seed is peace, the night carries peace. The subconscious, which often drives dreams and restlessness, absorbs these seeds. Instead of random chatter shaping your inner world, deliberate words guide it. This is karmic hygiene for the mind, choosing carefully what you feed it before surrendering to sleep. Mantra practice also reveals something about the nature of thought itself. When you repeat a phrase with full attention, you notice how other thoughts still try to intrude. At first they interrupt, pulling you into distraction. But with gentle persistence, the mantra holds steady. Slowly, the interruptions grow weaker, the gaps of silence grow longer. This teaches you firsthand that thoughts are not permanent storms but fleeting visitors. By anchoring in sound, you discover the mind's capacity for stillness. Chanting before sleep can be done aloud or silently. Aloud, the vibration resonates through the body, loosening tension in the chest and throat. Silently, it penetrates deeper into the mind, filling the space usually occupied by chatter. Both forms are effective. What matters is sincerity. The repetition should not be mechanical but heartfelt, as if each syllable is a doorway into peace. Over time, the mantra may continue even in dreams, guiding the subconscious into calmer states. There is also a physiological effect. Studies show that chanting slows the breath, lowers heart rate, and stimulates the vagus nerve, all of which support deep rest. The rhythm of sound aligns with the rhythm of breath, creating coherence between body and mind. When practiced regularly, this conditioning makes the transition to sleep smoother. The body begins to associate the mantra with rest, just as a child associates a lullaby with safety. Different mantras carry different qualities. Compassion mantras soften the heart. Wisdom mantras clear confusion. Protective mantras ease fear. Choosing one that resonates with your current need can make the practice more powerful. If you are anxious, a mantra of peace may help. If you are grieving, a mantra of compassion may soothe. If you are restless, a mantra of grounding may stabilize. This adaptability makes mantra practice not only ancient but timeless, suited to the struggles of any era. Over time, mantra practice reshapes the relationship with mental chatter. Instead of fearing thoughts or trying to suppress them, you learn to redirect them. Thoughts lose their power to dominate because you have given the mind a healthier rhythm to follow. This skill extends beyond night into day. When worries arise, you can return to the mantra, calming yourself in the midst of activity. Sleep becomes the training ground for a mind that is calmer in every circumstance. Chanting before sleep also connects you to lineage. For centuries, practitioners across cultures have used sound as a path to peace. By joining in this practice, you participate in a stream of wisdom greater than yourself. This sense of connection strengthens faith, which itself reduces anxiety. You are not alone in your restlessness. Countless beings have walked the same path, repeating the same sounds, finding the same silence. This perspective brings humility and comfort, softening the loneliness that often accompanies insomnia. Practical steps make the practice accessible. As you prepare for bed, sit comfortably or lie down. Choose a mantra that resonates. Repeat it slowly, in rhythm with the breath. Let the syllables stretch with each exhale, dissolving into silence. If the mind wanders, return gently to the sound. Continue until the mantra feels as if it is repeating itself, no longer requiring effort. At this point, sleep often arrives naturally, the mind carried into rest by rhythm rather than resistance. Mantras also influence dreams. Just as daily consumption shapes the subconscious, the words you repeat before bed plant seeds in the dream world. Repetition of compassion mantras may lead to dreams of helping others. Repetition of wisdom mantras may bring clarity in dream symbols. Even if no such dreams appear, the overall tone shifts. Nightmares lessen, anxiety softens, and dreams become more coherent. This is not superstition, but the natural result of feeding the subconscious wholesome patterns instead of agitation. There is a deeper teaching hidden in mantra practice. Over time, the sound itself dissolves. You may begin by repeating syllables, but eventually the repetition leads into silence. The mantra becomes a vehicle that takes you beyond words into stillness. This mirrors the Buddhist path itself. Teachings are guides, not ends. Mantras point the way, but ultimately dissolve into the silence they reveal. Sleep then becomes not just unconsciousness, but entry into a sacred quiet, where the self loosens and peace expands. The simplicity of the practice makes it easy to overlook, yet its effects are profound. Few other tools work so directly on the restless mind. Where effort fails, sound carries. Where thoughts multiply, mantra gathers them into one stream. Where silence feels unreachable, repetition bridges the gap. In this way, sacred syllables become more than sound, they become companions, carrying you from agitation into serenity. Mantras that dissolve mental chatter remind you of an essential truth. Peace does not always arise by silencing the mind directly. Sometimes it comes by giving the mind something steady and sacred to hold until it naturally releases its grip. Through this practice, sleepless nights become less threatening, and rest becomes a ritual of devotion. Each syllable is a step away from chaos and into stillness, guiding you toward the freedom that has always been waiting beneath the noise. Mantras carry the restless mind into rhythm, offering a sound strong enough to dissolve chatter and yet gentle enough to guide you into silence. But when the sound fades and you place your head on the pillow, another teaching can begin, one hidden in the very object you rest upon each night. The pillow, soft and silent, can become more than a cushion. In Buddhist practice, it can serve as a reminder of emptiness, the truth that thoughts, fears, and even the self you cling to are not as solid as they appear. This is the essence of the empty pillow practice, a meditation in surrender that transforms the act of lying down into a profound encounter with wisdom. The mind often treats thoughts as if they were heavy stones. Worries about tomorrow, regrets about yesterday, judgments about the self, all seem solid, unmovable. Yet when examined, they dissolve like mist. They have no fixed form, no weight outside of attention. The pillow is a perfect teacher for this truth. It accepts the weight of your head without resistance, yet it holds nothing permanently. Press your face into it, and it shapes to you. Lift your head, and it returns to emptiness. This is the nature of all phenomena, responsive, impermanent, empty of fixed identity. By treating the pillow as a symbol of emptiness, you train the mind each night to release its grip. As your head rests, reflect. Just as this pillow holds no fixed shape, my worries hold no fixed reality. They rise when I cling to them and vanish when I release. This simple shift transforms the pillow into a meditation object, a tactile reminder that nothing in the mind needs to be carried as if it were permanent. The practice deepens when you notice how the pillow supports without clinging. It offers comfort but does not demand recognition. It serves its purpose and then returns to stillness. In this way, it mirrors the Buddhist ideal of compassionate action, acting without attachment, serving without grasping. By meditating on this, you align your mind with a way of being that rests naturally, free from the constant push and pull of craving and aversion. Emptiness in Buddhism is often misunderstood as nothingness. In truth, it is fullness, the recognition that all things are interconnected and without separate essence. The pillow, empty of a fixed identity, can take on any form, soft for one head, firm for another, warm in one moment, cool in another. Similarly, thoughts appear to have form, but are empty of permanence. By bringing this reflection into the moment of rest, you weaken the illusion of solidity that keeps you awake. This practice also addresses the weight of self-identity. Many nights are restless because the I refuses to dissolve. You replay conversations to defend yourself, relive mistakes to protect your image, or plan endlessly to preserve control. But when you see the pillow as empty, you are reminded that the self, too, is not fixed. It changes with roles, moods, and conditions. Just as the pillow returns to stillness when you lift your head, the self dissolves when you stop feeding it with thought. Sleep itself is proof of this. Every night, the self disappears, and yet life continues. The empty pillow practice trains you to embrace this dissolution consciously, without fear. The tactile quality of the pillow strengthens the practice. Touch grounds reflection in reality. You feel its softness, its give, its return to form. Each sensation becomes a direct teaching. Nothing resists change. Nothing is fixed. This grounding is especially helpful for minds caught in spirals of abstraction. Instead of battling thoughts in the head, you rest awareness in the body, in contact with the pillow, and allow the teaching of emptiness to arise through sensation. There is also a psychological release in this practice. When you see worries as empty, their grip loosens. Anxiety thrives on the illusion of permanence, the belief that problems will last forever, that identities are unchanging. By meditating on emptiness, you undercut this illusion. You remind yourself that just as the pillow holds no shape, no thought can hold you forever. This reduces fear and allows the nervous system to relax, opening the door to deeper sleep. The empty pillow practice can be extended through visualization. As you lay your head down, imagine your worries dissolving into the pillow, vanishing into its formlessness. Each exhale carries tension into its depths, where it disappears without trace. Over time, this visualization conditions the mind to release automatically at bedtime. The pillow becomes not only a symbol, but a ritual container, absorbing the weight of the day and returning you to emptiness. This teaching also prepares the mind for death, often called the great sleep in Buddhist thought. Just as each night you rest your head and release the self into emptiness, so too one day you will release the body itself. By practicing with the pillow as a symbol, you rehearse this, letting go in small doses. Death then becomes less frightening, not an abrupt void, but a familiar release into the spaciousness you practice each night. What makes this practice unique is its accessibility. You do not need chants or elaborate rituals. Every night you already use a pillow. The practice is to shift how you relate to it. By transforming something ordinary into a symbol of truth, you weave wisdom into daily life. This is the essence of Buddhist training. To find the sacred in the mundane, to turn every action into practice. The empty pillow practice also cultivates gratitude. Each night, as you reflect on its support, you may feel a sense of appreciation not only for the pillow but for all conditions that make rest possible: the bed, the roof above you, the countless beings whose labor contributed to your comfort. Gratitude itself is a form of release, loosening the grip of dissatisfaction. When the heart rests in gratitude, the mind follows into ease. Dreams, too, can be influenced by this practice. When you fall asleep with a mind attuned to emptiness, dreams become less entangled. Instead of nightmares of clinging or loss, the subconscious reflects spaciousness. Even if troubling dreams arise, you are more likely to meet them with equanimity, remembering the truth of emptiness within them. In this way, the pillow not only supports physical rest, but also shapes the inner world of dreams. Over time, the empty pillow practice reshapes your relationship with thought itself. You stop treating thoughts as unshakable truths and start seeing them as temporary shapes, like impressions left on a pillow that always return to emptiness. This insight ripples into waking life. Worries lose their sting, arguments lose their weight, and identity loosens. You become lighter, less burdened, more at peace. In the end, the practice is about trust, trusting emptiness, trusting impermanence, trusting the natural flow of release. Each night, as your head sinks into the pillow, you rehearse this trust. You remind yourself that nothing you carry is permanent, that everything dissolves, that emptiness is not to be feared but embraced. In this trust, sleep becomes more than unconsciousness. It becomes an entry into wisdom, guided by the softest of teachers, the empty pillow beneath your head. Resting your head on the pillow as a symbol of emptiness teaches you that nothing you carry is as solid as it seems. The weight of identity, the heaviness of thought, even the shape of worry dissolves when released into spaciousness. Yet emptiness is not cold or void. It opens the heart to fullness. Once the mind loosens its grip, it becomes ready to receive. What it receives in those last moments before sleep determines the flavor of the night and the freshness of the morning. This is where gratitude enters. Gratitude is not just polite acknowledgement. It is the deliberate turning of the heart toward appreciation, a reset of karma that cleanses the residue of the day and prepares the mind for deep rest. Buddhism places immense value on gratitude, not as a social courtesy, but as a practice that reshapes perception. Gratitude interrupts the mind's natural tendency to fixate on lack, on what went wrong, on what remains unfinished. Left unchecked, this tendency fills the night with regret and anxiety, making rest difficult. Gratitude flips the lens, directing attention toward blessings rather than burdens. Each act of contemplation becomes a release, dissolving the emotional weight of the day. By practicing gratitude at night, you ensure that what lingers in the subconscious is light, supportive, and life-affirming. This karmic reset works because gratitude is both an antidote and a generator. It is an antidote to resentment, jealousy, and fear states of mind that create agitation and disturb rest. It is a generator of joy, contentment, and compassion, qualities that harmonize the heart and calm the nervous system. By ending the day with gratitude, you seed the night with wholesome states, and those seeds sprout in dreams, in physiology, and in the way you greet tomorrow. The practice can be simple. Before sleep, pause and reflect on 3 things you are grateful for. They do not need to be grand. They can be as small as a meal that nourished you, a kind glance from a stranger, or the comfort of a blanket. What matters is the sincerity of the recognition. Each acknowledgement is like cleansing dust from the heart. Over time, this nightly reflection becomes a ritual of purification, clearing away the day's grime so you can rest in clarity. Gratitude also alters the body's chemistry. Neuroscience shows that genuine feelings of appreciation release dopamine and serotonin, neurotransmitters linked to calmness and happiness. This biological shift supports deeper sleep, reducing the agitation that often keeps people awake. In this way, gratitude becomes medicine, emotional, spiritual, and physiological. The Buddha spoke of wholesome states leading to wholesome results, and here the connection is direct. A grateful mind creates restful nights. There is a karmic dimension as well. In Buddhist thought, the state of mind at the moment of sleep influences the state of consciousness carried forward, not only into dreams, but into the next day, and ultimately into the next life. Ending the day with bitterness plants seeds of bitterness. Ending with gratitude plants seeds of peace. Each night becomes an opportunity to reset the trajectory of karma, steering it toward compassion and contentment. Gratitude is not only about feeling good in the moment, but about shaping the entire path of becoming. Gratitude is also deeply relational. Much of human suffering comes from forgetting interdependence, from clinging to the illusion of independence. Gratitude restores awareness of connection. Reflecting on the food you ate, you remember the farmers, the soil, the rain, the countless hands that made it possible. Reflecting on the shelter you rest in, you recall the laborers, the architects, the community that sustains it. Each acknowledgement softens the sense of isolation. This recognition is profoundly soothing at night, when loneliness often sharpens. Instead of drifting into sleep feeling alone, you drift into sleep feeling held by the web of life. Nightly gratitude also strengthens forgiveness. When you appreciate what you received, it becomes harder to fixate on grievances. A heart full of appreciation cannot simultaneously be full of bitterness. If anger arises, gratitude offers perspective. Yes, someone may have hurt you, but countless others supported you. This balance reduces the sting of pain and allows the heart to rest without carrying grudges into dreams. The practice can be expanded into a structured meditation. Begin with gratitude for your body, the breath that continues, the heart that beats, the senses that serve you. Then extend to gratitude for people in your life, for teachers, friends, family, even strangers who brought small kindness. Finally, expand to gratitude for conditions themselves, the sun, the earth, the opportunity to practice. By widening the circle, you fill the heart with warmth that radiates outward. Falling asleep in this state is like being wrapped in light. For those who suffer from insomnia fueled by racing thoughts, gratitude provides a gentle anchor. Instead of battling to silence the mind, you redirect it to appreciation. Each grateful thought displaces a worry. The more sincerely you reflect, the less space remains for anxiety. Over time, the mind learns this pattern, naturally leaning toward gratitude at night rather than agitation. Sleep becomes not only easier, but sweeter, colored by appreciation rather than fear. Nightly gratitude also nurtures resilience. Life inevitably brings pain and uncertainty. But when gratitude is practiced regularly, the mind learns to see blessings even amid difficulty. This resilience carries into the night, protecting sleep from being overwhelmed by despair. A grateful mind can rest even in hardship because it still perceives what is sustaining and supportive. There is also beauty in the ordinariness of gratitude. It does not require rare conditions or elaborate rituals. It requires only attention, a single candle, the taste of water, the quiet of the night. Any of these can become the object of gratitude. This accessibility makes the practice powerful. No matter where you are, gratitude is available. By ending the day with it, you affirm that even in imperfection, life holds gifts. This affirmation brings a softness that welcomes rest. Dreams, too, reflect gratitude. A mind steeped in appreciation is less prone to nightmares. Instead, it produces dreams that mirror joy, connection, and peace. Gratitude shifts the tone of the subconscious, guiding it toward wholesome imagery. Even if dreams are not vivid, the emotional residue upon waking is lighter. This creates a cycle where gratitude at night leads to positive mornings, which in turn make gratitude at night easier. The long-term effect of nightly gratitude is profound. It gradually transforms perception. Instead of focusing on scarcity, the mind begins to notice abundance. Instead of resenting life's imperfections, it appreciates life's gifts. This shift reduces suffering at its root. Buddhism teaches that suffering comes from craving and aversion. Gratitude counters both by fostering contentment. In this way, the nightly practice is not only preparation for rest, but training for liberation. Ultimately, nightly gratitude is an act of compassion for yourself and for others. For yourself, because it frees you from the torment of dissatisfaction. For others, because a grateful heart naturally expresses kindness. When you wake from restful sleep nourished by gratitude, you meet the world with more patience, more generosity. The practice ripples outward, touching not only your nights but the lives of those around you. To rest with gratitude is to close the day in harmony. The mind, instead of carrying the burden of lack, carries the lightness of appreciation. The body, soothed by this emotional state, surrenders easily to rest. Sleep becomes not escape but blessing, not unconsciousness but renewal. In this way, gratitude becomes the bridge between emptiness and fullness, between the letting go of the day and the embrace of the night. Each evening, it offers a karmic reset, allowing you to begin again with a clear heart, ready to meet tomorrow with openness and peace. Ending the day in gratitude empties the heart of its heaviness and fills it with appreciation, allowing rest to come more easily. Yet even when the mind has been softened and the heart has been opened, there are nights when sleep still refuses to arrive. You turn, you wait, you breathe, but the body remains awake. Most people treat these hours as punishment, something to endure until exhaustion finally wins. But Buddhism teaches that even sleeplessness carries wisdom. Insomnia can become a teacher, a hidden dojo where you practice patience, compassion, and tolerance toward yourself when nothing seems to go your way. The suffering of insomnia lies not only in wakefulness but in resistance. The mind says, "Why am I still awake? What is wrong with me? Tomorrow will be ruined." These thoughts pile suffering upon suffering, turning minutes into hours of frustration. But when approached as a teacher, insomnia becomes a training ground. It strips away control and asks you to face yourself without escape. In this way, the sleepless night is not wasted time, but practice in the hardest discipline, patience. Patience in Buddhism is more than waiting. It is the willingness to remain present with discomfort without adding anger or despair. A sleepless night becomes the perfect arena for this training. The bed becomes a cushion, the darkness a meditation hall, the restlessness a koan. Each moment of wakefulness challenges the mind to either fight or surrender. If you choose surrender, you are cultivating patience in its purest form. This patience is not passive resignation, it is active compassion. You learn to hold yourself kindly when the body will not obey, when the mind will not settle. Most people turn sleeplessness into self-blame, saying, "I should be able to sleep." The practice is to replace this with kindness. It is okay to be awake. I will sit with myself gently. This shift transforms torment into training, turning what felt like failure into a teacher of compassion. The lessons of insomnia extend beyond the night. By training in patience during wakeful hours, you become more patient in daily life. The same tolerance you offer yourself at midnight becomes tolerance for others at noon. The irritations of traffic, of conflict, of waiting in line, all become easier when you have faced the long hours of the night without collapsing into despair. In this way, insomnia, though unwelcome, becomes a profound teacher of equanimity. There is also a deep karmic lesson in seeing insomnia as practice. Life itself often refuses to give you what you want when you want it. You demand results, and delays appear. You crave certainty, and uncertainty lingers. Insomnia mirrors this truth. It forces you to sit with not getting what you want. To learn patience here is to prepare yourself for the larger struggles of life. By training in the small dojo of the night, you strengthen yourself for the dojo of existence itself. Another gift of sleeplessness is the opportunity to expand mindfulness. Most people meditate only when conditions are comfortable, quiet spaces, soft cushions, gentle light. But true practice means facing the mind in all conditions. When you cannot sleep, mindfulness becomes sharper. You notice thoughts looping, sensations rising, emotions shifting. You have no choice but to see them clearly. This raw observation deepens awareness in ways comfort never could. Sleepless nights also teach humility. They remind you that control is an illusion. No matter how advanced your techniques, no matter how disciplined your schedule, sleep sometimes will not come. This humbling truth softens pride and invites surrender. You remember that the body and mind follow their own rhythms, and your role is to meet them with care rather than domination. Humility itself is a form of wisdom, opening the door to deeper compassion. For those who suffer often from insomnia, the practice of reframing is crucial. Instead of saying, "This night is wasted," you can say, "This night is practice." By turning frustration into opportunity, you reclaim agency. The body may not sleep, but the heart can still grow. You can still cultivate compassion, patience, awareness. In this way, no night is wasted. Each hour becomes meaningful, even in wakefulness. Some teachers advised using these hours for gentle meditation rather than forcing rest. Sitting quietly, breathing softly, or repeating a mantra can transform sleeplessness into nourishment. Even if sleep does not arrive, the body receives calm, the mind receives steadiness. This is another form of patience, replacing the demand for sleep with the acceptance of stillness. The lesson is not to cling to one outcome, but to welcome what is available. Insomnia also reveals how fragile the human condition island. It exposes how dependent you are on circumstances, how quickly suffering arises when comfort is lost. This awareness can deepen compassion for others. Think of those who live in pain, who cannot rest due to illness or hardship. By experiencing your own sleeplessness, you understand them better. You connect with their suffering, and this connection becomes compassion. The night becomes a teacher not only of patience but of solidarity with all beings who struggle. Over time, these lessons reshape your relationship with insomnia itself. What was once an enemy becomes neutral, even a companion. You stop fearing the night because you know it carries practice. The body may be tired, but the heart is strengthened. Instead of dreading sleeplessness, you welcome it as another opportunity for growth. This shift alone reduces suffering, because much of the torment of insomnia comes from the belief that it should not happen. By accepting it as teacher, you dissolve that belief. The dojo of insomnia also trains you in non-attachment. Each hour awake teaches you that clinging to the desire for sleep only fuels suffering. Letting go becomes the only option. This lesson echoes the heart of Buddhist practice. Clinging is the root of suffering, and release is the path to peace. The night is simply another arena where this truth unfolds. Practical exercises can deepen this transformation. When you notice restlessness, you can practice loving-kindness phrases for yourself. May I be at ease, even if I am awake. May I be gentle with myself tonight. When thoughts spiral, you can observe them as clouds passing rather than storms threatening. When frustration arises, you can breathe into it and release judgment. Each act is a step in patience, each moment a chance to cultivate compassion. Ultimately, insomnia as a teacher strips away illusions of control and comfort, leaving you with yourself. And in meeting yourself in those raw hours with patience, tolerance, and kindness, you touch the essence of practice. You discover that rest is not limited to sleep. Rest is the quality of heart you bring to wakefulness. Even without closing your eyes, you can rest in compassion. Even without dreams, you can awaken to patience. In this way, the sleepless night ceases to be a burden and becomes one of the deepest teachers you will ever meet. Sleeplessness, when met with patience, teaches that rest is not found only in unconsciousness, but also in compassion for yourself in difficult moments. This reframing already begins to loosen the grip of suffering, but there is an even subtler dimension waiting to be explored. Rest is not one flat state. It unfolds in layers, each with its own depth, its own texture, its own wisdom. Buddhist teachings often compare awareness to a lotus' many petals, each revealing more as they open. To approach sleep this way is to discover that even drifting into unconsciousness can be a journey of awareness, a movement through petals of consciousness that can transform the night into practice rather than escape. Awareness during rest does not mean keeping yourself awake. It means cultivating sensitivity to the gradual transitions the mind and body pass through. Most people collapse into sleep with little notice of how it happens. The mind races, then suddenly it is morning. But when you slow down and observe, you begin to notice the shifts. The breath lengthens, thoughts loosen, sensations blur. Each stage is like a petal unfolding, carrying you deeper into stillness. By being present with these stages, you discover that rest is not a single plunge into darkness, but a layered flowering of awareness. The first layer is waking consciousness, where thoughts still move quickly. This is often where insomnia clings. If you meet it with resistance, the petals close. But if you soften and simply notice, here are thoughts, here is the body, here is the breath, the first petal begins to open. Awareness here is gentle acknowledgement. You do not try to silence the mind, you simply recognize its activity without judgment. This recognition itself starts the transition. The next layer comes as thoughts slow and sensations deepen. You may notice your body sinking, the edges of form blurring. This stage is a petal of surrender. The body's weight becomes pronounced, gravity felt more fully. Awareness here is grounded, physical. By attending to the heaviness, the warmth, the contact with the bed, you support the natural descent. Many practitioners use body scan meditations at this stage, guiding awareness through each limb, releasing tension as they go. Each release is another petal opening, another layer of consciousness softening. As the mind drifts further, imagery may arise, fragments of dream, flashes of memory, colors or sounds. This is the hypnagogic state, a threshold between waking and dreaming. Most people pass through it unconsciously, but with awareness, it becomes fascinating. These flickers reveal how the mind constructs reality, weaving images from nothing. To observe without clinging is to train in non-attachment. You see images come and go, like petals opening and falling, and you realize that thoughts and dreams are equally transient. The lotus of sleep teaches impermanence in real time. Deeper still is dream consciousness. Many traditions view dreams as chaotic, but Buddhism treats them as opportunities for practice. Just as you can cultivate mindfulness during the day, you can cultivate it in dreams. Lucid dreaming, a form of dream awareness, allows recognition. This is a dream, but even without lucidity, the emotional tone of dreams reflects the seeds you planted before sleep. Gratitude, compassion, and mantra practice shape these petals, making dreams lighter and more instructive. Each dream is another unfolding, another expression of the lotus, showing you the workings of the subconscious. The innermost petals open in deep, dreamless sleep. Here, awareness is subtle, often unnoticed. The self dissolves, time disappears, yet consciousness continues in its quiet form. Buddhist texts describe this as a glimpse of the unconditioned, a state where the fires of craving, aversion, and delusion temporarily cease. To touch this, even unconsciously, refreshes body and mind. To approach it with awareness is to experience sleep as mini nirvana, a taste of freedom. The lotus is fully open here, radiant in silence. Practicing layered awareness means preparing the mind to notice these shifts. You do not need to remain alert all night. That would defeat rest. Instead, you cultivate mindfulness as you enter sleep. You notice the breath slowing, the body softening, the thoughts drifting. You allow awareness to ride the transitions like a leaf carried on water. If you fall into unconsciousness, that too is fine. The practice is not about control, but about honoring each stage as it comes. This layered approach also changes your relationship with waking during the night. Instead of frustration, you can recognize it as another layer, another petal closing before opening again. Each waking is an opportunity to return to awareness, to reset the mind with compassion, to observe the body's needs. The night becomes less of a battle and more of a cycle, a continuous unfolding of petals in rhythm with breath and silence. The lotus of sleep also carries symbolic depth. In Buddhism, the lotus grows from mud, yet blossoms pure on the surface. Similarly, sleep grows from the mud of fatigue, restlessness, and worldly concerns, yet opens into purity when awareness is present. To practice layered awareness is to see that rest is not dirty or trivial, but sacred, a flowering of consciousness that cleanses the mind. This view transforms how you treat the night, not as wasted hours, but as practice in its own right. Layered awareness also protects against fear of sleep. Many people fear nightmares, fear restlessness, fear losing control. But when you see sleep as petals of awareness, fear softens. You realize each layer is natural, each stage a teaching. You learn to trust the process, just as the lotus trusts the sun to open it. This trust itself is calming, reducing the anxiety that often blocks rest. Over time, practicing awareness through these layers deepens both sleep and waking life. You begin to notice transitions everywhere. The shift from anger to calm, from distraction to focus, from tension to release. You see that all states are layered, all experiences unfolding petal by petal. This recognition makes you more patient, more compassionate, more attuned to the rhythms of change. The lotus of sleep becomes a mirror for the lotus of life. To rest with layered awareness is to honor the journey, not just the destination. Sleep is not only the final collapse into unconsciousness, but the unfolding of petals along the way. Each stage carries wisdom if you are willing to see it. By cultivating this sensitivity, you transform rest into practice and practice into rest. The lotus opens, the mind softens, and in the quiet depth of night, wisdom blooms. Awareness of sleep as a lotus teaches that rest is not a single drop into silence, but a gradual opening of layers, each carrying wisdom. Yet as the petals unfold inward, there is also a need for them to unfold outward. The mind that learns to soften within itself can extend that softness beyond the limits of personal rest. Compassion, cultivated inwardly, finds its natural expression outwardly. Before closing your eyes, the heart can be directed toward those who cannot sleep, not because they struggle like you do, but because their circumstances deny them the peace you are seeking. This practice of sending loving kindness to the sleepless world transforms private rest into universal care, creating a peace that transcends the boundaries of your own bed. The night is not silent for everyone. In hospitals, patients fight pain or face fear under fluorescent lights, while nurses move tirelessly from room to room. In war zones, families listen for explosions, fearing each sound in the dark. On night shifts, workers clean streets, transport goods, or monitor machines, their bodies weary while the world sleeps. To acknowledge them before your own rest is to recognize the vastness of suffering and service that fills the night. Instead of shrinking into isolation, you open your heart to connection. Sending compassion does not require words or rituals. It begins with intention. As you lie down, you bring to mind those who are awake in difficulty. You let the heart speak. May they be safe. May they be free from suffering. May they know peace. This simple gesture plants seeds not only in your own mind, but in the subtle fabric of consciousness that binds all beings. Even if no one hears it, the act changes you. It replaces self-absorption with generosity, anxiety with care, restlessness with calm. This practice also shifts the weight of insomnia when it arises. Instead of asking, "Why can't I sleep?" you turn the energy outward. Who else is awake? And how can I send them kindness? The night becomes less of a private prison and more of a shared field of compassion. By transforming self-centered worry into outward care, you dissolve the sharp edge of suffering. You discover that even wakefulness can be meaningful when used to extend kindness. Buddhist texts often describe loving kindness meditation as immeasurable because it knows no boundaries. Extending it before sleep reflects this boundlessness. You do not limit your wishes to loved ones alone, but include strangers, even those you may never meet. This expansion of care not only benefits others in unseen ways, but purifies your own heart. By softening the walls of self, you prepare the mind for deeper rest. Anxiety narrows, compassion widens. The space created by compassion is the space in which peace arises. There is a karmic element to this practice as well. Thoughts before sleep sink deeply into the subconscious, influencing dreams and shaping the emotional tone of the night. By ending the day with compassion, you seed the subconscious with care rather than fear. Dreams may reflect this, carrying gentler imagery. Even if dreams do not arise, the residue upon waking is lighter. You begin the next day already aligned with compassion, making kindness easier in action. Extending compassion to the sleepless world also nurtures humility. When you remember patients in pain, soldiers on watch, or workers laboring through the night, your own struggles feel less overwhelming. This is not to dismiss your suffering, but to place it in context. Humility eases self-pity, making space for gratitude. Gratitude, in turn, calms the heart and allows rest to come naturally. The practice can be specific or broad. You might bring to mind a friend undergoing treatment, sending them strength. Or you might picture an entire group, refugees seeking safety, caregivers working tirelessly, and bathe them in silent wishes for peace. Whether focused or expansive, the effect is the same. The heart opens, and rest becomes easier. Compassion does not drain energy, it replenishes it. By shifting attention away from worry toward care, you free yourself from the cycle of agitation. There is also beauty in recognizing that compassion is not bound by time or space. You may be lying quietly in your room, yet your heart can touch distant lives. The act itself expands consciousness, dissolving the illusion of separation. In this expansion, you feel less alone. You sleep not as an isolated self, but as part of a vast web of beings, all seeking peace in their own ways. This sense of shared humanity is profoundly soothing, dissolving the loneliness that often accompanies sleeplessness. Over time, making compassion for the sleepless world a nightly ritual reshapes your relationship with the night. You stop seeing it as empty hours and begin to see it as sacred space. Each evening becomes an opportunity to connect with unseen lives, to contribute silently to the collective healing of the world. Sleep then follows not out of exhaustion, but out of alignment, as the heart rests more easily when it has extended care. This practice also deepens resilience. Knowing that others face the night with burdens far heavier than yours helps you endure your own restlessness with more patience. You learn to carry discomfort without despair, because you know your compassion connects you to a greater whole. Instead of feeling trapped by sleeplessness, you feel entrusted with a role to practice kindness even in the dark. This shift alone changes the texture of the night. In Buddhist terms, compassion is the wish for others to be free from suffering. By practicing this before sleep, you remind yourself of the universality of that wish. Everyone, everywhere, seeks peace. By aligning yourself with that truth, you dissolve some of the self-centered craving that keeps you restless. Peace arises not by grasping, but by letting the heart flow outward. Practical steps can make the practice easier. After lying down, take a few slow breaths. Bring to mind one image: a hospital ward, a city at night, a refugee camp. Offer silent words of compassion. May you be free from fear. May you find rest. May you be safe. Then expand outward, to strangers, to animals, to the entire world. Let the heart radiate without boundary. If thoughts intrude, return gently to compassion. If sleep comes, let it arrive naturally, carried on the current of care. In this way, even sleepless nights become purposeful. Compassion replaces frustration, and patience replaces fear. By sending loving kindness to those awake in difficulty, you not only create peace for them in unseen ways, but also for yourself. You discover that the most profound rest comes not from isolation, but from connection, not from self-concern, but from care for others. And in that discovery, the night ceases to be an enemy and becomes a field of compassion, preparing the heart for both sleep and awakening. Sending compassion outward to those who cannot rest softens the heart and frees the night from loneliness. But compassion does not only extend through wishes, it also takes form in how you prepare your own environment for peace. After caring for the sleepless world, the next step is to care for the atmosphere you inhabit. One of the deepest forms of this care is silence. In Buddhism, silence is not emptiness of sound alone. It is a discipline, a mirror that reveals the mind as its island. Honoring noble silence in the hours before bed mirrors the monastic way, creating conditions where clarity can replace agitation and rest can flow naturally. Noble silence is different from ordinary quiet. Ordinary quiet might be the absence of noise, yet the mind remains loud with distraction. Noble silence is intentional. It means restraining speech, choosing not to flood the senses with stimulation, and allowing the heart to settle into stillness. Monastics observe noble silence during certain hours, not simply to avoid disturbance, but to prepare the mind for meditation and insight. At home, bringing this same practice into the evening can transform rest into a sacred ritual rather than a collapse into exhaustion. The noise of modern life is constant screens flashing, messages arriving, music filling every space. Without realizing it, the nervous system becomes overstimulated. By bedtime, the body may be tired, but the mind continues spinning, replaying conversations, consuming information long after the lights are out. Silence becomes essential medicine. It resets the senses, clears mental clutter, and signals to the entire system that the day is complete. Without it, rest becomes shallow. With it, the mind surrenders naturally. Practicing noble silence begins with speech. Words carry weight, and the final words of the day often linger in the mind. Harsh or careless speech before bed plants agitation that follows into dreams. Choosing silence instead plants stillness. This does not mean ignoring others or creating coldness, but simply limiting unnecessary talk. A gentle good night, followed by quiet, sets the stage for rest. Even brief silence allows the mind to release the momentum of conversation and enter a slower rhythm. Beyond speech, noble silence also applies to what you consume. The hours before bed are not the time for dramatic news, intense arguments, or endless scrolling. Each of these acts fills the mind with impressions that will echo through the night. Noble silence asks, can you allow the senses to rest? Turning off screens, dimming lights, and entering stillness become acts of compassion for yourself. Just as monks withdraw from distractions to deepen practice, you withdraw from stimulation to allow rest. The beauty of noble silence is its clarity. When external noise lessens, the internal noise becomes visible. At first, this can feel uncomfortable. Thoughts may seem louder, worries more insistent. But this is the very purpose of silence, to reveal what has been hidden under constant distraction. Instead of drowning restlessness with noise, you meet it directly. Over time, this meeting cultivates courage and gentleness. The mind learns that it does not need to fear its own contents. Silence becomes not emptiness, but intimacy with the self. This intimacy is what allows true rest. Without silence, sleep can feel like escape, a way to shut down the constant flood. With silence, sleep becomes continuation, a deepening of the stillness already cultivated. The transition is smoother, the rest more profound. You are not collapsing into unconsciousness, but entering it with awareness and calm. This mirrors monastic life, where silence before meditation is not avoidance but preparation. There is also a communal aspect to noble silence. In monasteries, silence in the evening is shared, creating a field of calm that supports everyone. At home, you can create similar fields. Families who agree to quiet evenings notice that tension lessens, conflicts reduce, and the atmosphere softens. Even alone, your silence influences the space. Rooms carry energy, and silence creates spaciousness where agitation cannot thrive. The peace you create becomes part of the environment you rest in. Noble silence is also a form of respect for impermanence. Words, once spoken, cannot be taken back. Stimuli, once consumed, cannot be erased. By choosing silence, you respect the day as complete. You acknowledge that nothing more needs to be added. This acceptance of closure mirrors the practice of letting go at the end of life. Each night becomes a rehearsal of release, an acceptance that what has been done is enough. There is a physiological effect as well. Noise, whether external or self-generated through chatter, keeps the nervous system alert. Silence lowers stimulation, activating the parasympathetic system, which supports digestion, repair, and rest. Scientific studies show that silence increases brain cell growth and reduces stress hormones. When paired with mindfulness, noble silence is not deprivation but nourishment, feeding the brain and heart with the conditions needed for renewal. Some may feel that silence is empty or lonely, but when approached with awareness, it becomes full and alive. In silence, the sound of breath becomes audible, the beating of the heart becomes present, the subtle sounds of the environment, wind, distant movement become vivid. These gentle sounds root you in the present, dissolving the artificial noise that usually drowns them. You realize that silence is never absolute absence, but a field of subtle presence, more restful than any distraction. To cultivate noble silence, you can create small rituals. Light a candle instead of watching a screen. Read a short passage of wisdom instead of browsing endless words. Sit quietly for a few minutes, listening to your breath. Avoid unnecessary speech, letting the night close gently. Over time, these small acts become natural. Silence ceases to feel forced. It feels like coming home. Dreams are also influenced by silence. When the senses are not overloaded before bed, the subconscious produces clearer, calmer imagery. Nightmares lessen, clarity increases, and sometimes insights arise. In Buddhist practice, silence was seen as fertile ground for wisdom. By honoring it before sleep, you align your nights with this same possibility. Dreams can become more coherent, carrying messages that reflect the calm planted in the mind. Ultimately, noble silence prepares not only for rest, but for awakening. By withdrawing from noise, you create the conditions to see clearly. By honoring stillness, you practice the same discipline that monastics have used for centuries to cultivate insight. In this way, your bedroom becomes a monastery, your night a retreat. The silence before sleep is no longer absence but presence, no longer emptiness but fullness. To rest in noble silence is to honor yourself with clarity. The mind softens, the body follows, and the heart finds peace. Sleep comes as a natural continuation of stillness rather than as an escape. And when you wake, the residue of silence remains, carrying its calm into the day. Through this practice, nights become sacred, mornings lighter, and the whole rhythm of life steadier. In silence, you find the clarity that no amount of noise could ever bring. Noble silence before sleep clears the ground, allowing the heart and mind to settle into stillness. Yet the stillness of night is not only about rest, it can also be a rehearsal for something greater. Every time you surrender to sleep, you are enacting a miniature death, the loosening of the self, the fading of identity, the release of control. In Buddhist teaching, death is not the end but a passage, a transition known as the bardo, where consciousness journeys between states. Sleep, with its nightly dissolution of the self, becomes practice for this passage. To treat each night as rehearsal is to prepare not with fear, but with wisdom, transforming rest into spiritual training. The bardo, as described in Tibetan Buddhism, is the intermediate state between death and rebirth. It is said to be a time of great potential, where liberation is possible if awareness is present. But it is also a time of confusion if the mind is untrained, filled with clinging and fear. Practicing awareness in sleep becomes preparation for meeting death with clarity. Each night, as you let go of the day and sink into unconsciousness, you mirror the process of letting go of life itself. By practicing consciously, you train to release without fear. The connection between sleep and death has long been recognized. Both involve the dissolution of ordinary consciousness. In sleep, the waking self vanishes, replaced by dream or by deep stillness. In death, the same dissolution occurs, but permanently. To notice this link changes the way you approach sleep. Instead of collapsing unconsciously, you enter with intention. Tonight I practice letting go. Tonight I rehearse death. This attitude softens the fear of both sleep and death, transforming them into gateways rather than threats. This practice begins with awareness at the threshold of sleep. As you feel the body sinking, the breath slowing, the self loosening, you remind yourself, this is a rehearsal. You notice the resistance, the desire to hold on to thought, identity, control, and gently release it. Each release is training, each surrender a strengthening of the ability to let go. Over time, the mind learns to trust the process, to meet dissolution not with panic, but with acceptance. Dreams also become part of this training. In the Bardo, it is said that the mind projects visions shaped by karma. In dreams, the same occurs. Images arise, vivid and convincing, yet insubstantial. To practice awareness in dreams, whether lucid or simply mindful upon waking, is to train for the visions of the Bardo. You learn not to cling, not to fear, not to mistake appearance for solid reality. This recognition prepares you for death, in the same way it prepares you for life. By loosening attachment to illusions, deep sleep, where even dreams vanish, offers the purest rehearsal. In this state, the self is absent, yet life continues. Consciousness rests in a subtle form, unshaped by thought. To reflect on this upon waking is to glimpse what the Bardo may hold, a spacious awareness beyond identity. Each night you taste it, though often unconsciously. By bringing mindfulness to the process, you train to recognize it more clearly at the final transition. This perspective reshapes your relationship with both night and mortality. Sleep is no longer trivial, it becomes sacred practice. Death is no longer distant, it becomes familiar. Fear softens because you meet the small death nightly and wake renewed. Trust grows because you experience the cycle again and again: dissolution, rest, return. By aligning with this rhythm, you prepare for the great dissolution with calm. Practical methods can deepen this training. Before sleep, reflect briefly on impermanence. This day is finished. These thoughts are finished. I let them go. As you rest, focus on releasing clinging, one layer at a time: the body, the breath, the mind. If you wake in the night, treat it as another rehearsal. Notice the return to awareness, then release again. Each cycle becomes a microcosm of death and rebirth. This repetition conditions the mind for the ultimate letting go. This practice also nurtures compassion. When you see sleep as death's rehearsal, you remember that everyone undergoes this cycle nightly. You are not alone in your training. All beings, knowingly or not, practice dying each night. Extending compassion to them deepens the sense of shared humanity. And when others face death, you can meet them with greater understanding, having rehearsed the process yourself countless times. There is also humility in this practice. Sleep reminds you that no matter how strong your will, you cannot control the dissolution of consciousness. Death will be the same. To accept this humbly now prepares you to accept it later. Humility itself brings peace, reducing the ego's desperate clinging. The more you train in release, the lighter the ego's hold becomes. Even the fear of nightmares can be reframed through this lens. Nightmares mirror the Bardo's frightening visions. Instead of fleeing them, you can practice meeting them with courage. Upon waking, reflect, that was appearance, not solid. I can face visions without fear. This strengthens the mind for both dreams and death, teaching you that appearances cannot harm awareness itself. The empty pillow, noble silence, gratitude, all previous practices support this training. They clear the heart and mind so that when the rehearsal begins, you can enter it with calm. The more you align your life with compassion and clarity, the smoother the transition becomes. Sleep as Bardo practice is not isolated. It is the culmination of living, ethically, mindfully, compassionately. Over time, this perspective changes daily life. You stop clinging as desperately to possessions, achievements, and identities because you are practicing letting go each night. You live lighter, with less fear of loss. This freedom makes life richer because you engage fully without being bound. Death ceases to be an abstract terror and becomes a continuation of what you already know. To practice sleep as bardo preparation is to live and die with awareness. Each night becomes a meditation on impermanence, each morning a rebirth. The cycle trains the mind to release, to face dissolution with peace, to trust the unfolding of consciousness. By embracing this, you prepare not only for serene sleep, but for the ultimate letting go that awaits all beings. In this way, the night becomes not only rest but sacred training, and death itself becomes not an end but a passage into the silence you have practiced every evening of your life. Treating sleep as rehearsal for the bardo reveals how every night is a practice in release, a surrender into impermanence that prepares the heart for the final letting go. Yet awareness of mortality does not need to be somber. It can inspire rituals of care, ways of honoring the body and purifying the mind, so that surrender becomes natural. One of the most profound yet often overlooked practices is ritual cleansing before rest. In Buddhist temples, evening bathing was never only about hygiene. It was a form of purification, washing away not just dust and sweat, but also the subtle karmic residue of the day. Bringing this wisdom into nightly life turns bathing into a sacred act, one that prepares body and mind to enter sleep with clarity and peace. Water has always carried symbolic power. It dissolves, it cleanses, it renews. In Buddhist teaching, water represents purity and the flow of impermanence. Just as a river never holds the same water twice, the self never holds the same identity from moment to moment. Bathing before sleep becomes a reminder of this truth. The day is gone, its impressions washed away, and a new state begins. This act is more than comfort, it is ritual closure, drawing a line between what has passed and what is ready to dissolve into rest. Monastics treated bathing with mindfulness. Each movement was slow, each gesture deliberate. Soap was not lathered absent-mindedly but applied with awareness, cleansing the hands not only of dirt but of harmful actions, cleansing the mouth not only of taste but of unwholesome speech, cleansing the face not only of sweat but of masks worn in daily interactions. Each part of the body became a focus for reflection, releasing both physical residue and karmic impressions. By the time the ritual was complete, the practitioner felt not only clean but renewed, ready to enter the silence of night without burden. In daily life, this ritual can be adapted without complexity. As water touches the skin, you bring intention. I release the residue of the day. I release anger, worry, and harm. The warmth softens muscles, the coolness awakens clarity. The flow itself becomes a meditation on impermanence. Instead of rushing through bathing, you linger with awareness. Each drop of water is seen as a teacher, reminding you that nothing clings forever. This deliberate practice aligns the body with the mind, ensuring both are prepared for rest. There is also a psychological effect. The body associates bathing with renewal. When practiced consistently, the ritual becomes a signal, telling the nervous system it is time to transition from activity to stillness. This is why many temples scheduled bathing in the evening. It marked the end of service, the beginning of silence. For lay practitioners, the same rhythm can apply. Cleansing the body becomes a cue for the mind, easing the transition into sleep. Beyond the physical, ritual bathing touches the emotional. The day leaves impressions not only on the skin but on the heart. Words exchanged, tasks left unfinished, emotions stirred, these cling like unseen dust. To bathe with awareness is to symbolically wash them away. With each rinse, you release resentment. With each breath of steam, you release guilt. With each drop sliding off your skin, you release tension. The act itself becomes forgiveness, a way of not carrying the day's burdens into the night. The practice can be expanded with visualizations. As water flows, picture it carrying away negative energy, dissolving patterns of clinging, cleansing karmic residue. Some traditions used herbs or flowers in water, not only for fragrance but for symbolic purification. Even without such additions, the intention itself is powerful. The mind believes what it enacts. By treating bathing as purification, you convince the subconscious that release is real and rest becomes deeper. Ritual bathing also connects you to humility. To cleanse the body is to acknowledge its fragility. The skin that gathers dust, the muscles that grow weary, the breath that fogs the mirror, all remind you of impermanence. Yet instead of rejecting this, you embrace it. Bathing becomes gratitude for the body's service and compassion for its limits. This humility prepares the heart for surrender, replacing resistance with acceptance. In temples, communal baths often created a sense of shared purification. Practitioners entered together, each respecting the silence, each honoring the same ritual. This collective act strengthened discipline and harmony. At home, bathing may be solitary, but the intention can still extend outward. As you cleanse, you can reflect, "May all beings release their burdens. May all find purification." Compassion woven into ritual transforms it from private act to universal offering. Dreams, too, can be influenced by this practice. When the body is cleansed and the heart feels released, the subconscious reflects that lightness. Nightmares lessen, clarity increases, and rest feels safer. Water is associated with clarity of mind, and bathing with intention can plant that clarity into the dream state. Just as monks sought to prepare the mind for meditation through ritual, you prepare the mind for peaceful dreams through bathing. The karmic aspect of ritual bathing is profound. Each day accumulates actions, some wholesome, some harmful. While karmic results unfold in larger cycles, the mind carries the weight of these impressions nightly. Bathing with intention is not erasure, but cleansing of immediate residue. It is a karmic reset, ensuring that the night begins with a lighter heart. Over time, this nightly cleansing influences behavior itself. Knowing you will reflect each evening, you become more mindful during the day, less willing to accumulate residue you will later need to wash away. There is also joy in reclaiming the sacredness of the ordinary. Most people bathe out of necessity, half distracted, rushing to the next task. To slow down and treat it as ritual elevates it. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. This shift is at the heart of Buddhist practice, turning daily acts into opportunities for mindfulness and compassion. By transforming bathing, you transform not only your nights but your view of life itself. Practical suggestions can help anchor the practice. Choose to bathe without screens or distractions. Use simple words of release as water touches each part of the body. May harmful speech be cleansed. May restless thoughts be washed away. May fatigue dissolve. Breathe with the rhythm of the water, synchronizing exhalation with release. End the ritual with gratitude for water, for the body, for the chance to rest. These small steps turn bathing into meditation, purifying body and mind together. Over time, ritual bathing before sleep reshapes the quality of nights. You no longer carry the grime of the day into dreams. You enter rest with clarity, with lightness, with peace. The act becomes more than hygiene. It becomes a spiritual offering, a way of honoring the body and cleansing the heart. In this way, water teaches you nightly what the Dharma teaches always. Release is possible, purity is within reach, and every ending is preparation for renewal. Bathing with mindfulness washes away not only the dust of the body, but also the weight of the day, leaving you lighter and more open to rest. Yet there are nights when even cleansing rituals cannot silence the mind. Thoughts flicker endlessly, refusing to fade into stillness. This is where another ancient practice offers guidance: the candle meditation. Watching a flame is more than a simple exercise. It is a profound way of settling the restless mind. The flame, steady yet alive, becomes both anchor and teacher. By resting your gaze on it, you invite the mind to follow its stillness, and in that stillness, sleep arrives without struggle. The flame has been a symbol of clarity across traditions. In Buddhism, it represents awareness, bright, unwavering, illuminating what is hidden. To meditate on a flame is to place your wandering thoughts into its steady rhythm. Unlike abstract focus on the breath, which some find elusive, the flame provides a visible, tangible point of attention. Its dance captures the eye, while its constancy teaches stability. For those who struggle with insomnia, this dual quality makes it uniquely effective. It holds attention without strain and guides the mind toward stillness without demand. The practice is simple yet profound. Sit quietly in a dim room, place a candle at eye level, and soften your gaze upon the flame. Do not stare harshly. Let your vision rest gently, as if absorbing light rather than dissecting it. As you watch, thoughts will arise: plans, worries, memories. Instead of chasing them, return to the flame. The mind, like a moth, is drawn back to light. With repetition, the mental chatter grows softer, like background noise fading behind a steady song. Eventually, the flame becomes the only song, and stillness arises naturally. The symbolism deepens the practice. The flame consumes wax and wick, transforming them into light. In the same way, meditation on the flame consumes agitation and restlessness, transforming them into clarity. You realize that just as the flame depends on conditions, so too do your thoughts. Change the conditions, remove the fuel of attention, and the thoughts diminish. This insight alone loosens insomnia's grip. You no longer see wakefulness as a battle, but as a play of conditions that can be shifted through practice. Physiologically, focusing on a flame alters the nervous system. The steady gaze encourages slower blinking and deeper breathing. The nervous system interprets these signals as safety, reducing stress hormones. This is why many report a profound calm after even a few minutes of candle meditation. It is not only psychological, it is embodied. The body itself begins to mirror the flame, steady, rhythmic, unhurried. For someone trapped in cycles of insomnia, this embodied calm is invaluable. The flame also carries a lesson in impermanence. Watch closely, and you will see it is never still. It flickers, bends, brightens, dims. Yet through all its changes, it remains a flame. This reflects the nature of awareness. Thoughts, emotions, and sensations shift constantly, but awareness persists. By observing the flame, you train yourself to rest in awareness rather than in the turbulence of thought. This shift is what leads the mind from agitation to stillness, from insomnia to rest. Candle meditation can also be combined with breath. As you gaze, breathe slowly, letting each inhale draw in light and each exhale release tension. Visualize the flame entering your body, illuminating the heart, dissolving knots of anxiety. With each breath, you become more like the flame, clear, steady, luminous. Eventually, when you close your eyes, the inner flame remains. This image continues to guide the mind into sleep, carrying the calm of the practice into dreams. For those sensitive to symbolism, the flame can represent compassion. You may reflect, "May my heart burn like this flame, offering warmth to myself and to others." Ending the day with this reflection plants seeds of kindness in the subconscious. Compassion soothes the heart, making rest easier. The flame thus becomes not only a tool for calm but also a source of spiritual cultivation. Candle meditation is also effective because it replaces the restless habit of screens. Many suffer insomnia because their last act before bed is staring at devices, feeding the mind with light that agitates rather than soothes. Replacing this with a candle reorients the senses. Instead of harsh shifting images, the eye rests on natural flame. Instead of stimulation, you receive stillness. This small change has profound effects, turning the pre-sleep ritual into nourishment rather than disruption. There is a discipline in this practice. At first, the mind resists. It wants to wander, to grasp at thoughts, to reject simplicity. But with patience, the flame wins. Not by force, but by constancy. This patience mirrors the discipline of monastics who used flame gazing as a path to concentration. For lay practitioners, it does not need to lead to deep meditation states. It is enough that it quiets the mind and opens the door to rest. The discipline of returning again and again to the flame strengthens not only sleep but also mindfulness throughout life. Dreams after candle meditation often feel different. The mind, calmed and cleansed, produces dreams with more coherence, less agitation. Some even report dreams of light, of clarity, of peace. Whether or not such dreams occur, the residue upon waking is lighter. You rise not groggy but refreshed, as if the flame burned away the heaviness of the night. This reflects the karmic principle. What you plant before sleep shapes what arises within it. Planting calm through the flame yields calm in return. Over time, candle meditation can transform insomnia entirely. Instead of dreading the night, you begin to welcome it as an opportunity to sit with the flame. Sleep ceases to be a demand and becomes a natural consequence of practice. Even if rest does not come immediately, the night feels purposeful. You are not trapped in frustration, but engaged in meditation. This reframing alone eases much of the suffering tied to sleeplessness. The practice can be expanded. After some minutes of gazing, you may close your eyes and visualize the flame at the heart, glowing steadily. You carry this image into sleep, letting it burn quietly as you drift. This visualization is protective, guarding against nightmares, guiding the subconscious toward clarity. The inner flame becomes a companion through the night, reminding you of stillness even in dreams. Ultimately, candle meditation is a return to simplicity. A single flame, steady in the dark, has the power to quiet the storm of the mind. It requires no complexity, no tools beyond awareness, no effort beyond returning. In its light, insomnia loses its grip and rest flows naturally. The flame teaches patience, impermanence, compassion, and stillness, all while guiding you gently into sleep. In honoring this practice, you rediscover what has always been true. Peace is not hidden but present, waiting to be seen in the simplest of things. The flame teaches calm by drawing the mind into focus, its gentle steadiness, dissolving restlessness and preparing the heart for surrender. But even when the mind quiets, the environment you rest in holds enormous influence. What surrounds your body in the night communicates directly to the subconscious, shaping how deeply you release and how safe you feel to let go. This is why Buddhist monasteries place so much importance on simplicity in bedding and environment. The monk's bed is not luxurious or cluttered. It is stripped down to essentials, carrying an atmosphere of order and serenity. In its plainness lies its power, because simplicity clears the subtle burdens that noise, clutter, and excess impose on the sleeping mind. Sleep is not only a function of biology, it is also shaped by signals. The body reads every texture, every object in the room, every impression of space. A messy environment whispers of unfinished business, of chaos unresolved. Ornate surroundings often spark attachment and desire. pulling the mind into restlessness. In contrast, simplicity sends a message of clarity. A bed that is neat, firm, and unadorned tells the body, this is a place of rest, not distraction. The subconscious, receiving this message, releases more easily. Monastic practice embraces this principle deeply. A monk's bed often consists of a thin mattress or mat, a plain sheet, and a simple blanket. The surrounding space is uncluttered, with few possessions. This austerity is not deprivation, but training. It teaches that comfort does not require excess, that rest arises not from abundance, but from alignment. For the monk, the bed is not an indulgence, but a tool of practice, a place where body and mind release into simplicity. In daily life, you can adopt this principle without replicating monastic austerity. The essence is not hardness, but clarity. Ask, does your bedding invite rest, or does it stimulate attachment? Piles of pillows, tangled sheets, overly ornate decor, all of these may seem comforting, but often stir subconscious agitation. Simplifying your sleep environment to the essentials, a supportive mattress, clean sheets, a single or few pillows reduces these subtle disturbances. The environment becomes like the mind of meditation, clear, stable, uncluttered. Simplicity also affects how you meet the morning. A messy bed carries forward into the day, whispering of disorder. A simple, neatly arranged bed supports discipline. This is why many monastics make their beds with precision, treating the act as part of practice. To rise and leave behind order is to carry clarity into the day. To end the day with order is to invite serenity into the night. The rhythm becomes cyclical. Simplicity at night shapes simplicity in life, and simplicity in life shapes rest at night. There is also psychological freedom in simplicity. Excess in the sleep environment often reflects and reinforces attachment. Luxurious bedding may provide temporary pleasure, but it trains the mind to crave conditions, to believe rest is impossible without them. Monastic simplicity breaks this chain, teaching that rest is not dependent on abundance. By simplifying your environment, you teach your subconscious that peace is accessible without excess. This reduces craving and strengthens resilience, making rest more reliable. The monk's bed also symbolizes impermanence. It is not designed to hold attachments. It is designed to support the body as it rests and then dissolves into the next day. By practicing with a simple bed, monks are reminded that life itself is temporary, that comfort cannot be clung to. Bringing this symbolism into your own life changes how you view rest. The bed is no longer a throne of indulgence, but a resting place in the flow of impermanence. This perspective alone can dissolve the anxieties that keep you awake. Practical adjustments bring this wisdom into modern life. Keep the sleep space free from clutter. Remove objects that carry emotional weight or distraction. Use natural, breathable fabrics that support rest without indulgence. Keep colors simple, favoring calming tones over bright patterns. Treat the act of preparing the bed as ritual, smoothing sheets with care, aligning pillows with intention. Each gesture becomes meditation, reminding the body that it is entering a space of clarity. The discipline of simplicity also guards against overstimulation. Many people bring work, devices, or even meals into the bed, transforming it into a place of activity rather than rest. The subconscious then associates the bed with stimulation rather than release. Monastic discipline avoids this confusion. The bed is for rest, nothing more. By adopting this discipline, you retrain the mind. The moment you lie down, the body knows, this is rest time. The association strengthens over time, making sleep smoother and deeper. Simplicity in the sleeping environment also mirrors the inner simplicity you cultivate through meditation. Just as you strip away distractions in the mind to rest in awareness, You strip away distractions in the environment to rest in the body. The outer space reflects the inner state. Clutter outside fuels clutter inside. Order outside nurtures order inside. The monk's bed is therefore not only furniture, but a mirror of practice. Dreams, too, respond to environment. A cluttered room often produces chaotic dreams filled with unresolved fragments. A clear, simple space produces calmer dreams, reflecting the peace of the environment. This is another way in which environment influences subconscious activity. By simplifying what surrounds you, you shape what arises within you. The night becomes less turbulent, the mind less burdened. Over time, adopting simplicity in bedding and environment reshapes your relationship with rest itself. You begin to see that peace does not require abundance. You no longer cling to comfort as a possession, but recognize it as a natural state that arises when conditions are clear. This recognition is liberating. It reduces anxiety, increases resilience, and deepens rest. It is a lesson carried into all of life. The less you cling, the lighter you live. The monk's bed, in its quiet austerity, teaches serenity through absence. Absence of clutter, absence of indulgence, absence of distraction. Yet in that absence is fullness, fullness of clarity, of peace, of rest. To simplify your own sleeping environment is to honor this wisdom. It is to create a sanctuary not built on excess but on essence. In that sanctuary, the mind rests as naturally as the body, and sleep becomes not struggle but surrender. Simplicity in the bed and environment clears the ground for serenity, removing the clutter that unsettles the subconscious. Yet even when the space is uncluttered, the way the body is placed in rest matters deeply. The posture you take is not only physical but symbolic. It shapes breath, circulation, and the tone of the mind. Buddhist tradition teaches that the body is never neutral. It influences thought, emotion, and energy flow. This is why monks were instructed to sleep in particular ways, with the lion's posture being the most renowned. Such sacred postures were seen not merely as healthy alignments, but as practices in themselves, supporting calmness, mindfulness, and even the cultivation of dreamless, restorative rest. The lion's posture, described in early Buddhist texts, involves lying on the right side with the right hand supporting the head, the left hand resting along the body, and the legs slightly bent. The Buddha himself was said to have lain this way in his final passing into nirvana. This association gave the posture profound spiritual weight, linking it to dignity, composure, and mindfulness even in the face of death. By adopting it nightly, practitioners align not only with physical well-being, but with a tradition of mindful surrender. From a physiological perspective, the posture has clear benefits. Lying on the right side aids digestion, reduces strain on the heart, and supports optimal circulation during rest. The slight bend in the legs prevents stiffness, while the hand supporting the head keeps the body in a dignified yet relaxed alignment. Unlike sprawling or twisted positions, which strain joints or compress the breath, the lion's posture balances comfort with alertness. It allows the body to rest while keeping the mind steady, reducing the likelihood of chaotic dreams. But the posture's significance goes beyond biology. It embodies mindfulness. By choosing to place the body intentionally rather than collapsing into random positions, you begin rest with awareness. The posture becomes a gesture of respect toward the body, toward the night, toward life itself. This intention carries into the mind, shaping the quality of rest. Sleep entered mindfully in this way tends to be lighter, more restorative, and less troubled by agitation. Dreamless rest, often considered the deepest form of sleep, is supported by such postures. While dreams can carry teachings, they also reflect subconscious turbulence. Too many dreams can leave the mind fatigued, as if it has not truly rested. By aligning the body in a posture associated with dignity and calm, you create conditions for deeper stillness. The body does not fight itself, the breath flows smoothly, and the mind is less likely to generate restless imagery. The lion's posture thus becomes a gateway to the kind of sleep that heals both body and mind. Other traditional postures also carry wisdom. Lying flat on the back, though not emphasized in Buddhist texts, has been associated with openness and surrender, yet it often produces vulnerability or snoring. Lying on the stomach is discouraged, as it compresses the breath and stirs agitation. The left side may strain the heart or liver, though it can aid certain digestive issues. Among these, the right side posture with mindfulness remains the most balanced, both in symbolism and in health. Beyond the lion's posture, Buddhism emphasizes stability in how the body is placed at rest. The bed should be arranged neatly, the posture aligned, and the mind settled. Each gesture matters. Carelessness in posture mirrors carelessness in mind. By practicing deliberate placement, you cultivate discipline even in unconscious states. The posture becomes a continuation of meditation, extending mindfulness into sleep. There is also a karmic dimension. The body reflects intention, and intention shapes karma. To rest in the lion's posture is to align yourself with mindfulness and dignity, planting seeds of calm in the subconscious. Dreams that arise from such a posture often carry clarity rather than confusion. Over time, the practice influences waking life as well, strengthening composure and steadiness. The posture becomes not only a way of sleeping, but a way of training the mind. Sacred postures also remind us of impermanence. The image of the Buddha resting in the lion's posture at his final passing is a profound teaching. Even in death, mindfulness remains. By adopting this posture nightly, you rehearse not only rest, but the art of letting go with dignity. Sleep becomes practice for death, and death becomes less frightening when rehearsed daily with awareness. This transforms sleep into more than recovery. It becomes spiritual preparation. Practical steps make the posture accessible. As you lie down, place yourself on the right side. Support the head gently with the right hand or with a small pillow, ensuring the neck remains aligned. Let the left hand rest comfortably along the thigh. Bend the knees slightly, just enough to ease the lower back. Breathe slowly, feeling the body settle into alignment. As you rest, recall the symbolism. This is the posture of mindfulness, the posture of the Buddha. Let the dignity of that memory soften the mind into stillness. For those unaccustomed to the posture, adjustments may be needed. A pillow between the knees can ease strain. A cushion under the arm can provide comfort. The goal is not rigid imitation, but mindful alignment. Over time, the body adapts, and the posture becomes natural. What matters most is the intention carried with it, the act of choosing a posture that supports clarity rather than indulging in restlessness. This practice also extends beyond personal rest. When shared with families, it becomes a cultural gesture, teaching children that even sleep can carry dignity and mindfulness. Instead of collapsing into bed distracted, they learn to lie down with awareness. This small discipline plants seeds of respect for the body and mind that grow throughout life. The bedroom becomes not merely a place of collapse, but a place of practice. Dreams and rest, after practicing sacred postures, often reflect the quality of alignment. The body aligned, the breath steady, the mind at ease. These conditions carry into the subconscious. Nightmares diminish, clarity increases, and rest deepens. Over years, the practice strengthens resilience, both in sleep and in waking life. The posture becomes a nightly meditation, training patience, awareness, and calm. Ultimately, sacred postures remind us that the body and mind are inseparable. How you place the body influences the mind. How you train the mind influences the body. By honoring the lion's posture and other mindful alignments, you bring dignity into rest. You transform the act of lying down into an act of practice. Sleep ceases to be unconscious collapse and becomes a continuation of the path. In this way, every night becomes sacred, every posture a teaching, every rest a preparation for clarity and peace. You've just journeyed through a treasury of timeless wisdom, 21 Buddhist lessons to transform the way you approach sleep and the way you live. From seeing sleep as a glimpse of nirvana to releasing each night as a daily death, from dream yoga to mindful yawning, from gratitude to noble silence, from simple monk's bedding to the lion's posture, each teaching carries one truth. Rest is not only about the body, it is about the heart and the mind. When you bring compassion, clarity, and awareness into the night, you don't just sleep better, you wake lighter, calmer, and more alive. Every practice you've heard tonight is an invitation to release the weight of the day, to let go of old patterns, and to step into the quiet sanctuary that's always been within you. These lessons are not distant philosophies. They're tools you can use right now, tonight, to rest deeper and live with more peace. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these teachings spoke to you the most? Was it the noble silence before bed, the candle meditation, or the empty pillow practice? Share your reflections in the comments below. I read each one, and your insights might inspire someone else who is struggling too. And if you want more wisdom like this, lessons that blend ancient teachings with modern life, make sure to subscribe to the channel and tap the bell icon. That way, you won't miss the next journey into the art of living with clarity, compassion, and joy. Until next time, rest well, live kindly, and may your nights be filled with peace.